So thank you for joining us this week on the Wigan Way. This week we've got a special. It's the Wednesday before the Grand Final. So we're going to have a dive into.
Hi, I'm Tom.
Memories,
I'm Matty.
And I'm Lewis.
This is the Wigan Way,
experiences in the
Wigan's
Grand
favourite
Final.
rugby league podcast.
It's me, Matty and Lewis again today. We've got 4 Wigan fans. So when I introduce you, will you just let us know how long you've supported Wigan for, how long you've been there. So Jimmy, hello, thank you for coming on. So, how long have you followed Wigan for? 16 years following Wigan. Johnny, you alright? How long have you followed Wigan for?
1988.
First season,
Yep.
just over 30 years. Andrew, I know this answer, but
Back again, returning guest.
Yeah. How long have you followed Wigan for?
My first memory is 1976-77, so about 45, 46 years.
Brilliant. Cam,
Alright.
how long have you followed Wigan then?
2007.
2007, so 16 years.
Well, I can roughly remember 08, 9.
Ian Lenigan all your life then, really?
Yeah, that's it.
Not a bad time to be a Wigan fan, is it, following Ian Lenigan? But should we start with the first Grand Final, October 1998. First Grand Final ever. Wigan win against Leeds, 10 points to 4 with a try from Robinson and 3 goals from Farrell. In front of 43,000 people at Old Trafford. What were your memories of that, guys? Obviously, I wasn't alive.
That just made Jimmy feel really old.
I think the first thing that stand out was the weather. It was pretty monsoonal, the weather, wasn't it?
It had rained like 3-4 days in advance, never stopped all day. My tickets were 10, 12 rows from the front, and you was absolutely drenched. It wasn't a night for playing rugby, it was a night for getting a job done.
I was two rows from the front. Like Andrew said, we were absolutely drenched. You know.
So,
but I do think, put it in context, from having a first past the post system for all of my life, Jimmy can just about remember when it was a championship final. But having first past the post for champions, there was a lot of sceptical people about the grand final. People thought it was a flash in the pan, and they would go back to first past the post for champions and whatever. And people treated it like the old Premiership final, or a lot of people treated it like the old Premiership final. Personally, I didn't. I mentioned earlier how even though we won the league as such, I knew if we didn't win that now, we weren't champions. Leeds were champions. And I think once you saw Farrell lift a trophy, and I think once Leeds didn't win it and saw the players and the fans were so dejected about it, I think that laid the cornerstone for what followed in years to come, where the crowds got much bigger and much bigger.
But that goes on to one of the points I was going to make, was that in 98 the attendance was 43,000. We didn't get there in 99, but for the year after, in 2000, we lost to St Helens, but that attendance was 56,000, and the year after it went up to just over 60, and 2 years later it was 65. So in the first 5 to 6 years of the Grand Final, we went to 4, but you saw the attendance almost was 20,000 higher by 6 years in.
Yeah. It was a very good night. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously, it's nice to get the win. I just remember being on edge.
I remember being on edge when Richie Blackmore scored. And I thought to myself, this is going to be tough to get back here because of the conditions and everything. And then without jumping the gun, we know what happened when Billy Wiss went from acting out back and scored probably one of the best tries I've ever seen.
It's definitely like that try for first Grand Final ever. Probably still sits in a lot of people's top 5 of all time.
Yeah,
Because it settled it as well.
There's a couple of things I just want to mention about that. Don't underestimate that Leeds forward pack.
No.
They were formidable. With Morley, with Dermot, Darren Fleary, Oh yeah, Farrell. There was the Aussie guy,
Was it Martin Masella?
Martin Masella. There was the other Aussie guy, the second row. They were tough.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, you could argue dirty, but they
Compromising
really were
team,
compromising. And that actually came off the back of, I know we beat him in the playoff semi-final a couple of weeks earlier, but it was only 4 weeks before that Mick Cassidy and Morley. So I'd have the duo. So Morley lays out McCormack first tackle of the game, and then obviously Mick Cassidy's gone for Morley afterwards and nearly decapitated him. So there was a lot of ill feeling and bad feeling, and the rain actually probably played into their hands. They wanted a forward game, I think, because we weren't massively blessed in forwards when you look back at that team. We're decent forwards, but our strength lay in, you know, Henry Paul, Robinson, speed and whatever. But I think it was, you know, the thing that led to everything, and you know, I remember being at the end of it so relieved. It was just the relief of living that 80 minutes.
I think the playoff game as well was special.
The one at Central Park, League Yellow.
It was, because that was the first real taste of a playoff as well.
Yeah.
And what it meant to, it was straight to the final.
I was going to say, I hadn't even thought about that, but that would have been the first time that the playoffs were really...
Sunday night, it was incredible.
And
big atmosphere.
It had rained again all week, you know, and basically, well, say all week, probably like 3-4 days before, but they planned that they were going to play rugby. I remember John Mooney's statement was, we decided we were going to play rugby, we weren't going to just basically head down and play the conditions, we were going to play the game. And Gilmore scored that try, probably 70-80 metre try. Beat them decently comfortable. I think it was like about 18-6 or something like that, you know, much tighter than the final. But the whole experience was new to everybody. Thoroughly enjoyed it, yeah. And you know, I will add something. It was another first for Wigan. You know, the first team to win the Challenge Cup, the first team to win the World Cup Challenge, the first team to go down under and win it down there, the first team to win the Grand Final. Yeah. And that's, I always promote that at Wigan. We're not scared of being first at trying something and doing something. So
now the Shield, like, it's really important to win the Shield, and I'd rather win it than somebody else. But it does feel like the Grand Final's the big ticket, the be all and end all. To be relieved that you've won the Shield and the Grand Final.
I know some of you guys, obviously you guys are younger than us and won't remember the 8 in a row, and you know, we go back to the 8 in a row, and trust me, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 90s, winning the Challenge Cup meant 10 times more than winning the league.
That's what I was just going to say there, because Super League has 10, you know, the Grand Final has shoved
very quickly.
Very similar to what football.
I'm not saying 90, I'm not saying 98, but very quickly, 99, 2000, the swing happened, and everybody knew that the last game of the season was the most important.
Short piece of occasion.
For people like, obviously, because like I said, why do you think that was the case? Were the people that were prioritising the Challenge Cup was more of a bigger deal than the league? Was there any particular reason why? Because it's an interesting thing.
Possibly at the time it was the year it was played.
Yeah,
it was almost the last
game of the year. It went reverse. Because the championship didn't get the same, you know.
You won the championship 5 weeks before the end of the season, and then you had the Challenge Cup final, and you had the Premiership playoff. But the only time rugby was on TV was when the Challenge Cup final was on.
I see.
That was the only time you got 70, 80, 90,000 crowds. You could win a league title away at Oldham on a Wednesday night and there'd be 6,000 on. You know, so, and you didn't really have an homecoming for it or anything like that. So the switch, and obviously to switch to summer, and then you move the Grand Final to the last game of the season. Challenge Cup's been and gone. It's mid-season. You had to win it, and then you were back to the grind the week after.
It's interesting that, but it falls on the Rugby League calendar. Do you know what I mean?
I think Sky Sports might be the answer.
Because maybe,
It might be the reason.
Because it's the last thing, that's the last game before the new season's going to begin the next year round. It's the last games, it's the last memory, so it kind of puts more of the value on it, maybe,
But you've only got to look at the cup draws today. They get done on any, you know.
They're not on telly, are they?
They're not on television.
You win 4 games.
I mean, you know, you remember back in the 60s and 70s, Luke North, and it did beyond that. I mean, you saw the infamous where they dropped the ball. And Wigan drew Salford at home, and then they drew it again with drew them away. Like, luckily we beat them.
Yeah.
But it is that thing of the Challenge Cup was the big day out.
Yeah.
Well, that was the centre stage because it was on grandstand as well.
Mm.
And that's when the only time really, apart from some of the games, it was shown to the masses.
But I think the thing that comes out of this, what we're trying to set here is it wasn't a memorable final for a lot of the rugby that was played. We're not sat here talking about 6 or 7 great tries or etc., which happened in other finals. I think you're talking about the occasion. You suddenly got to feel that this meant everything. This was the occasion. And it didn't take long. It didn't take 10, 15 years for the grand final to become the thing. It very quickly, within 2 years, 3 years.
Does anybody know what the breakdown was? You know, Wigan fans against Leeds fans out there. The point I'm making is what's happening here this week in Wigan.
Yeah,
I
mean, we're talking 40-odd thousand there. The honest answer is that the league was sponsored by JJB. Dave Wheeler stepped in and sponsored it, and there were tickets going around for anybody who wanted them. The usual 10,000 probably bought them, 10,000 from Leeds, but there was a lot of free tickets. If they'd have all counted the paid for tickets, you're probably talking about 30,000 attending.
Yeah.
But fast forward through 2-3 years and you're getting 65,000. Yeah. Probably 60,000 is paid for them tickets. Very quickly it changed. The argument about first past the post, the grand finals for another day, but it's certainly for me.
Again, Super League's another thing. What we said about first, Murray's got it going, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think what I would say is that very, very quickly it became the event on the calendar. You know, we sit on them coaches in February, March, going to away games, and we just say it's all about grand final. It's grand final.
The thing I would say about as well now about the Challenge Cup is, I don't know about you, but if we can go to a final, or any team that's been proved with league, if they play the Challenge Cup final, they win it, they can forget. They seem to just drop off.
Yeah.
Now, as a spectator, that go every week, I don't want to see that. I want to see Wigan. You know,
winning every week.
I think Super League teams come in too late now as well.
Yeah.
There's no magic draws anymore. It's just Super League games again.
Yeah.
There's no Alton Sims Cross at home, and I know they're non-entities, but the
going to Keighley,
Dewsbury, Doncaster,
York,
places real heartlands of the game.
But focusing on the grand final, it's just good to point out, not comparing it or whatever. It's just saying that very quickly you got a feeling that was the thing.
It was played in October as well. It always been played in October back into the year, and conditions then obviously very different to May, when the Challenge Cup final would have traditionally have been. So that obviously lends itself a bit more to tough games. We've maybe seen a few games where it's not been flashy.
Yeah. If you try and remember the Challenge Cup finals, you know, you think about the tries rather than the 8-all games or the 10-6 games. You think of the open, expansive, whatever. Whereas under them lights at Old Trafford, you know, them conditions where
it feels like it sets up for big moments to be remembered, like the Robinson try and the Burrows try and things like that. They just stick there, don't they?
Did you just break it?
Now, obviously, from winning it in '98, we didn't get there in '99. And in the next 5 years after winning it, we went to 3 grand finals and lost all 3. That is obviously a low point. I'm going to ask you 3 guys. 2000 we lose to Saints 29-16. 2001 we lose to Bradford 37-6, and then in 2003 we lose to Bradford again 25-12. Out of them 3 games was the one that sticks out as feeling a little bit worse.
So I'm going to take the first one. The first one stuck with me for 14 years, 15 years.
Losing
to St Helens. And I'm going to sum it up to you. We were all in the Railway Club. I think we'd had a few. And I just remember Jimmy walking down to the ground half an hour before the kick-off and hearing the news that he'd moved Radlinski to centre and put Robinson to full-back. He was so scared of Connolly being out and putting Hodgson or Gilmore up against Newlove that he switched the team and it completely messed us up.
Yeah.
Lee Gilmore should have played.
Lee Gilmore should have
Because
walked
he could
in.
have had
And I just remember having a sinking feeling, and we could never.
What sick me about that game is we got back within touching distance.
Yeah.
We were 17-16.
There was two bad decisions.
Two bad decisions.
Yeah.
And
Tommy
next
Burton
minute-
offside. went
Kieran
for
could have
attacking.
had a big game that night. though.
Yeah. But again, we doing Saints a discredit in there that they've got what you look back on now as 5-6 legends.
Yeah.
You know, when you had Jointy, Long, Martin, Sculthorpe, Cunningham, they were great players. It's not that they were a bad team and we should have won. I just remember that's my overall thing. That sinking feeling that we were 10% off. We didn't do ourselves justice.
What about the two for Bradford?
That was the most embarrassing final.
I take it you mean 2001, the 37-6.
Yeah, it's 30. I mean, we just didn't turn up. And if you look back at that side, that was a good side. What Wigan had out that day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Bradford was a good side as well.
Bradford were a great side, but we just did not. I don't know what we got wrong. What we did that day, we just got blitzed.
What I will
We lost
say
in
is,
10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah, they just blitzed us early on, and one thing I remember, Roy, the kit man, hopefully he's listening, I always remember him saying to me 15-20 minutes into the game, Renos falling off tackles.
Yeah.
Betts, you could tell it was the end of his career. We just looked like we'd gone too far.
We got murdered.
Yeah.
It's quite simple.
Yeah, it was horrible.
It was just like the classic breakup of a team, weren't it?
Yeah,
And,
it's a weird one for me. I don't let that one sit me as bad as it was, because we just didn't
It
deserve
was
it.
just a blowout, wasn't it?
Just a blowout.
Complete
We didn't
blowout.
deserve
Move
it.
on, yeah.
Bradford deserved
Move on.
it.
Yes.
So fair play.
Yeah.
And then Johnny, I know you've got some feelings about 2003.
Well, again, I think that was a game we had more of a chance in, and we was in the game, and then I think Leon Price come on and cleaned Carney out, didn't he?
Yeah.
And should have been sent off, and I think that from that point I think we
And we went
tailed off.
I think we went into the game without our halfbacks. I think a very young O'Loughlin played, and a very young Luke Robinson.
Yeah.
I remember Lamb doing his ACL about 2 weeks before the game. So at Leeds, I think it was. So we were missing Lamb, etc. Young Aspinwall played his centre.
Aspinwall played,
Yeah. So we were very young, but we were really giving it to them, and then right about the 50-minute mark.
At the height of that.
I think their experience probably won us over in the end. But if they go down to 12 men, then because Carney was our.
Price was influential as well.
That was the year when he scored the 2 tries at Edinburgh when he Carney.
Yeah.
He was in good form though.
Well, from that game in 2003, we then don't make another grand final until Maguire in 2010, where we beat Saints 22-10.
We think about Maguire as being the start of this era.
Yeah.
The sort of the modern era, Maguire into Wayne, then Lamb and Pete now. So it feels like a big gap. It's only 7 years, but it feels like a big difference from those teams we were talking about losing to Bradford.
We
To
made,
Maguire.
yeah,
All
we
went on in
made,
them 7 years.
Yeah, exactly.
that's
kind of the point.
I know we made a semi-final in
Obviously,
2004. We made a couple of semi-finals in 7, 8 and 9. The reality is we were the best teams in them semi-finals.
We were playing at it.
Yeah. So you could look on paper and think to yourself, well, we weren't that bad. I know we had the dip in 5 and 6, but in 4, 7, 8, 9 we made semi-finals. We weren't.
We got butchered at St Helens.
If I'm being honest with you, it was a bit like Hull here turning up this week against us. Full of hope and blah blah blah. But the reality is,
Terry O'Connor failed 3 fitness tests and then played at St Helens in one of semi-finals. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's where it was at. You know what I mean? It was,
But it never happened today.
Yeah.
No, it couldn't. It wouldn't. No, but that's how it was then.
And that's how much you've changed.
But, and it's probably something we might touch on a bit, obviously in 2000, end of 2007, beginning of 2008, Ian Lenigan took over.
Yeah.
What you could see was the progression from 7 to 8. You could see the progression from 8 to 9. And then obviously in the off-season 9 to 10 was like night and day. And you could see how Ian Lenigan took over the club, made us more professional off the field.
Yeah.
The way that contracts, the way that players were being signed, the way that the youth started to come through and people were being patient with them. Suddenly you could see and get the benefit of your Farrells, your Hansons, Mossups, Tompkins, Joel Tompkins, etc.
Not to be underestimated what good of a job I think Brian Noble did as well. He laid the foundations for that.
Yeah,
Noble bringing in Stuart Fielding at the same time.
He knew Wigan were going somewhere special.
Yeah.
He stood there and he pointed at the away fans and said, "These fans are in for a good ride here now." And he wasn't wrong.
It's a weird one, and I'm going to come to 2010. At the end of 2009, we won the reserve grand final at Robin Park, and I remember watching Boots and All. I don't know if that's a programme you remember.
I remember Boots and All.
But Paul Cullen was interviewed, and he talked about Wigan, and they beat Saints easy that day. I think they beat them 30-odd 6 or something like that. And Lee Mossop, Darryl Goulding, all these players were coming through, Liam Farrell, etc. And basically, I can remember his words saying, "There's something in the air at Wigan, there's something special." And it didn't start that day. Lenigan laid the foundations, along with Noble, along with other people behind the
I
scenes.
think Gorgon had a good...
Yeah. But basically, it was like the culmination, it was just the right time, and you could feel it, and he said, something's going to happen at Wigan, something special.
Was there that kind of feeling? I mean, 2010 was my first grand final I went to. We were getting a season ticket the year after for that once we won it. So was in those seasons we talk about the progression years, the 8, the 9, leading up to 2010. I'm not saying it started 2010 like you knew, but was there the kind of feeling within the club, within, I don't know, the fan base, to think we're going somewhere? We're building the.
So I always
something's coming. Basically.
So I always defended Noble. But the truth is, he had took us probably as far as he could take us.
Absolutely.
We would have got naturally better because the players were getting better and getting slightly older, the younger lot. But the improvement that Maguire got out of them, with Wayne working with him, was like night and day. We jumped 10 steps forward. If Noble took us 3 steps forward in 7, 8 and 9, he took us 10 steps forward overnight. We were sat there just so confident. You could see after I think we had a blip at Bradford, if you remember, we were 30 something up, and then Matt Orford inspired a comeback, we ended up losing 31-30, and I remember saying early on in the season, well, we'll see how good we are now if we bounce back, and we took a good old team, a really good old team with O'Mealy and Fitzgibbon and all them lot. We took them to cleaners the week after, and you kind of like thought, this is different.
I think the Warrington game, was it second game of season? I think that's what, and I thought, we're on to something here.
Yeah.
You could just, there was an intent.
Yeah, and going to the final itself in 2010, we'd had that blip where we'd had a week off, if I remember rightly, and then we got beat by Leeds.
That was when it was.
It started a bit earlier that though, didn't it? Because we lost at home against Huddersfield when we went to win the league, didn't we? And we fluffed it on a Sunday. And then we stumbled a little bit, didn't we?
We stumbled. We won the league, but I just remember coming after that week off, and people today still talk about, I don't like that week off, and that was probably a bit of a thing with the top 5. You could have a week off, play one game, and you had another week off and play a final. You'd only play one game in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was always a bit of a thing, but we actually lost and then got another team at home. It might have been the week after.
Because the Leeds game was with the rugby gods intervening, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I remember talking to Simon Collinson, who was the CEO, and on the Monday it was like, oh, is it panic station, this, that, and other, and I remember him saying, no, we actually need this game this week. We need this OKR game. And it certainly settled my nerves.
Yeah.
But with regards to the final itself, out of all the finals that we've played, that's the one where I've never been as convinced that we were going to win.
Well,
that was the one.
Yeah.
Well, let's just talk about that.
Everything was there that now.
We played Saints, 22 points to 10 win, in front of 71,500 people. The first final that us three and Cam, you remember?
I was there in 2003, but not old enough to remember.
I don't think you remember that.
Fireworks.
You can't have that one, Matter. I was at Wembley against Widnes in '84. I watched Bertie Bassett and fell asleep. You want to remember Bertie Bassett, will you? Running around Wembley before the game.
Did it before me.
Yeah, I was only 2.
But obviously going into that game, I remember being with you guys and the confidence that everyone had. I obviously had no experience of a grand final before, and
I think leading up to that final with Terry Newton as well, had a massive, Wigan players.
Yeah. So that was.
I remember Gleeson scoring his try, pointed.
And what a game he had that day.
To be fair, we did in that game what Bradford did to us in 2001. We just didn't get as many points.
Yeah.
We lost Richards.
We blew him away.
We lost Richards that
obviously,
thing, missed about 3 or 4 kicks. It affected us because Joel Tompkins
Yeah,
had to go out there.
We kept going for 2 as well.
But that really was a 30-odd point good hiding. It wasn't like the scoreline said. Yes, we were never ever going to lose that game.
Was it Dixon who scored it?
Did Melly get one round here?
Melly got one.
Yeah.
Farrell had one chalked off as well for us.
Yeah. But I just that to the side, I think that was a massive shock to St Helens.
Yeah.
I think they went into the game thinking we've been to so many grand finals, we won so many, blah blah blah. You men's not been here, you'll choke, you'll this, you'll that, the other. But the reality was what Maguire and the rest of them did was so professional. I remember a particular highlight for me was I used to do the flags with my assistant Adam Conroy. Shout out to Adam. We used to do the flags at the stadium and go and put them up on Fridays and whatever. Without telling anybody, we contacted the club, got in touch with Man United, got in touch with the RFL, and we went down on the Friday. Now, I'm a Liverpool in football, I'm a Liverpool fan, but I'll tell you, Man United were unbelievable with us that day. They took us round the ground, asked us what we wanted, where would we like all the flags going, we put them all up. They took the We Are Wigan flag, so just to let you all know, the We Are Wigan flag is mine, and we put it up at the back, and they put it all up for us and everything. It was unbelievable.
Didn't have to do that.
And no, they were superb. And then they took us on a stadium tour, went to the dressing rooms and everything. It was
Probably get a game from now.
I know.
Not with his feet.
I'm better in goal than that fella anyway. But we had the advantage of that. And I remember being in the railway club where we always go for a drink beforehand and getting a phone call from Simon Collinson. And he said, we just walked out for a walk round and whatever, the players have seen the flags and can't believe it. And he said, you've got one end there and all the Wiganers were in and the flags were up. He said, and it just felt like we got one up on them, whatever. And then I got a phone call off Roy, who was doing the kit for the first time. And he just said, the difference between Saints walking in, all wearing shorts, t-shirts, as if it was just any other game. And Wigan came in so professional. He said, you could feel the tension in the air. And it's just one of those things that you just get that feeling and think, this is it.
I think we've got that this week.
You wouldn't think stuff like that would decide a game, but it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm just saying that there was so much. I think you see them now in dressing rooms and everybody's got these pictures and the names over the pegs and whatever. It wasn't done. And the first thing Maguire did was add it to the list of duties that Roy and George used to have to do, which was like, make it like you're special. Make these players feel like they are the number one. And he brought a lot of that in.
It's like the little things that they go the extra mile.
Yeah.
Make you feel like you're well.
The 1%.
I think Maguire, just before we come into this 20th, he was very kind of influential, I think. Obviously, with every round Wigan is saying that we come on leaps and bounds under Maguire. But I think he also changed a lot of how the game was played, just in terms of English rugby and Super League. Everyone talked about Wigan when Maguire was in with the 2 waves of attack, the 3 men in the tackle, slowing down the ruck and stuff. And what we started to do because of Maguire, other teams were adopting that. It's out the 3 men but speed and beast
still get slagged for
And he revolutionised a full-back position as well.
Yeah, we're moving Sam to full-back and Six going to full-back and everything. But I think then a lot of teams were starting to look and take from us, really. I think
because we'd won, you do have to remember Daniel Anderson had done some of this at Saints beforehand and he'd then just left. But also Nathan Brown at Huddersfield had done it. And so we weren't...
particularly the wrestle until back.
Maguire wasn't alone in all of that.
Yeah.
But he was.
He got the success.
He got the success off it because he had the players and that extra.
He had the drive.
And just, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I think we touched on it on one of the other podcasts with Roy Mel. He was such an intense person. People look at Maguire and he's smiling and blah blah blah, and then look at Wayne as being the aggressive and blah blah blah. But actually, Maguire was so intense, and you have to remember that playing that way, you had a limited lifespan. You take so much out of your players.
You can't play, you couldn't play a full career doing what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Total impossibility.
And that's where we've moved on to now, where I think Wayne managed it better, but I think with Pete now, I think we've got a much better balance of that intensity and play.
I think the world's a different place as well.
To make all the concussions and HIAs and blah blah blah. So going on to that one, 2010 is, well, I'll go out on a limb.
It's
probably say it's my favourite.
It's definitely my favourite.
It's mine.
Yeah.
For several reasons.
Even though it was my first, I wouldn't say it was my favourite.
My favourite's coming up.
There was one thing that always stood out for me from that was, obviously you mentioned it before, I can't remember who said it, about revolutionising the full-back and the way they changed it. We started that season with Roberts at full-back, and obviously the injury that he had on Easter Monday.
I think he was on course for Man of Steel, was Roberts.
Yeah,
First 3
It
months of the
was.
season.
Then first 10, 12 games of the season was as good as anything you'll ever see.
They'd have found someone else that win it, don't worry. Someone from Castleford or something. Some back rower who played 8 games.
but that injury led
We
to
don't play that.
that injury probably led to one of rugby's greatest, and he's going to be playing on Saturday. Sam went to full back.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable that game, and his try. I remember his try.
I know it doesn't sound like a lot this, Tom, but to a club like Wigan, we've gone 6-7 years without that superstar top player like Faz or like Robinson or before him Hanley, whatever. We'd gone through a spell where we had some good players and blah blah, but suddenly you were sat on the jewel in the crown. He was so much ahead of everybody else in terms of pace and expansion.
He had the X factor.
He did.
Chris Radlinski said in the podcast I saw, said like it's the closest thing this game in that country had to a superstar. He said it's the closest thing we've had like a Messi, Ronaldo, like Sam's the closest thing the English rugby league's had.
Yeah. So
I always remember with like Sam obviously scored in this game when he loops round and makes that break. It's just like he forced his way over the line, and that sort of part of it.
Determination.
For a 12-stone kid,
yeah.
Because that's what he was at the time, wasn't he?
He's
a bit of a kid.
Not like he's now.
It's not just his sheer talent, but the fact that he
found a way.
His
way.
commitment. He's a winner.
And I look back at his time at Wigan, and my highlights of him are probably not his best games, but ones where he's forced us to win. I remember a game against Wakefield at home in about 15, and he dragged us over the line. We ended up with 11 men. He played on one foot and like that. And that
drop goal from.
I think Catalan will realise how good he is when he's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's the reason they are where they are now.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
You know.
And knowing that, you saw it in 10 that was him, and the superstar was born.
We saw him a few weeks ago, and he was spitting feathers because of David. He wanted to be with him, and he never stopped. He was moaning, groaning all that game. Yeah. And that's the competitor into him. He never stops. He's relentless.
Yeah.
And that's what separates the good ones and from the great ones. It was Sam's final, but there were so many other players in that team that were George Carmont, Gleeson was outstanding. Gleeson doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, we know he probably ended his career at Wigan through his own misgivings and whatever, but for them 2-3 seasons he was at Wigan, he was outstanding. Gleeson, really, really good.
A couple of similarities though to that spell we had from 2010 to 2003, 7 years. It's 5 years. I know we had a grand final in it, but we didn't go to it because of COVID.
Yeah.
So there's
5 years since Old Trafford.
Since we've been there, and I think it's been reflected today by the Wigan fans. They've always said teams get blasé when they keep winning all the time and people drop off. We've only got to look at Wembley, which we've discussed before. The crowds that go down to Wembley. It used to be. I can remember as a kid, 90,000 on at Wembley. You'll never get that these days. But this weekend, God almighty.
Now,
wouldn't be frightened of any people to want to be back to him.
Now, 2013 was our next grand final, and we'd had a couple of good chances in between, probably 11. We ran out of steam, we went really big for the Challenge Cup and didn't quite make it. And
That's been what you were saying about Maguire being so intense, and
back in
just
2 years.
We'd had 18 months of it. We'd come away with one every trophy once.
Yeah.
And we just didn't have anything left to give. And there were a couple of decent teams still left in it at that point. So,
but into 2013, we get there against Warrington, and there was a moment that stands out for massively for me was Goulding's try just before half time.
Yeah, after
We were 16 points to 2 down. Richards had kicked a penalty earlier. Monaghan, Griggs, Westwood had scored, and that they were really like back-to-back tries, 21st, 24th, and 26th minute, and it had gone from 2-0 to 16 points to 2.
yeah.
And to get Goulding's try just before half time, I think it was about a minute before the end, took us to 16 points to 6. It felt like we got a bit of a lifeline in that game back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was probably Warrington's moment. That in terms of players,
Because obviously they'd lost in 12 to Leeds.
It was the time that they got the back end of like the top rated players. They did get there in years to come, but they never had a Morley again. They never had Briers, Monaghan, etc. But for me, it'll come down to what Wayne did at half time. And we went to the Ian Lenigan talk about 3-4 weeks ago, which we've been to lots of ones with Robinson, with Afire, with Farrell and whatever. For me, the Lenigan one was the best evening that I went to. And they were talking about what happened at half time. Now, there's this rumour going round about what happened at half time, but they basically confirmed it, which was that Wayne just got everybody in, calmed them all down, started talking about repeating process, etc, etc, etc. And he basically convinced them at half time that they were going to go out, and if they did what they should do, that they would win. That was also the end of Yestin Harris at Wigan.
Because he didn't believe what
As he was walking off down the tunnel, they actually asked Wayne, they said, as he walking off, I believe Yestin said, and he wouldn't fully commit to what he said, yeah, well, that's why he had to go. And he didn't fully sell it, but from what I'm led to believe, Harris said, that's us done, we're gone, we're wherever. And Wayne just said, put them to one side, sat them down, calm, cool and collected, told them what they had to do. And we come out second half, Mickey Mack
scored just after,
Well,
after 9
I don't
minutes.
think before that though,
That was an important try.
when Westwood did what he did to
Blake
Green.
I think that's the period of time where they got them tries. They got on top a little bit because they rattled us a little bit. The fact that they should have been marched, shouldn't they?
It should have been marched.
And and it wasn't. But obviously, I do think you're right. It gives them a bit of an extra incentive to
At that time, though,
serve it up to them.
they never red carded anybody in a grand final, and obviously, like what it
Save
took
that
to
till the year after.
what it actually took to in the end them do it, they should have set him off.
But I'm just going to talk about them personally. Seeing Mickey, they're playing away from us, but seeing Mickey just go, and you got at that
He
time.
gave that big celebration in front of Warrington fans.
Yeah, and he just put it down, threw it, looked at him, and it was like,
I think that's when
this is it.
That's the moment that Tony
This is
Smith
it.
pinpointed.
And Charles.
So that was the moment when McAlorum scored. That was the moment when it all.
yeah. And the rest was fantastic, some great tries and whatever.
I was going to say, it only took
But
4
it
minutes.
just, that moment,
It only took 4 minutes after the McAlorum try for Charlie to score.
yeah.
Blake Green scored.
10 minutes later, but
I love that.
after 13 minutes of the second half, we've gone from 16 points to 6 down to a leading 18 points to 16. And that one, if you're Warrington, you must be shell-shocked. You can imagine what they were saying after conceding that first try from McAlorum, where I get back into the game and we're still in front and whatever, to then concede straight after. That's the real, the sucker punch.
The first try after half time in that game was massive, wasn't it? After Goulding scored just before that, you knew coming out to the second half, next try is absolutely massive.
We've already talked about some highs and some lows. Yeah, we've talked about some highs and some lows. We're going to talk about some highs and some lows moving forward. Remembering that them highs and lows have particularly come against Bradford, St Helens, Leeds, in their own right, World Club Championship winning teams. Teams who knew how to win when it mattered.
Yeah.
Warrington didn't.
Yeah.
Warrington didn't know.
It's not
Not necessarily, not necessarily just as a team.
10 years later.
As a club, yeah.
As a club.
Yeah.
As a club, you know what I mean? And 20 minutes into the game, 40 minutes into the game on Saturday, Wigan know how to win. You know, and it means a lot. It means a lot.
There's also a fear factor for teams when they play Warrington. Are you going to be the first team that's going to let them win it?
Yeah, I think it's just something about the clubs themselves, you know.
Yeah.
We've talked in the past about, in football terms, you know, I've seen some pretty average Liverpool teams, but they could win an FA Cup, they could win a European Cup, they could pull one out because as a club they know what they're doing.
It's in the DNA.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Wigan. And
Saints.
there's some clubs like that.
Leeds have got it.
Leeds have got it now.
There's 3 clubs who still exist, isn't there?
Yeah.
Who know where win grand finals.
Yeah.
The other one doesn't even exist anymore, does it?
Yeah.
I still think it's Wigan that lose to Warrington in the final. And God forbid it be with now at half time.
But I think that
At age 20.
I do think that thing goes.
Longer ago, so I mean.
I'm not needing another passport anyway. Not needing another passport.
I do think that clubs like Wigan, like Saints, like Leeds, despite what they've had this year, etc., those clubs when they're starting the season, nothing but winning it is a success.
Yeah.
And the way that you embrace that and move forward is different than some other clubs. And not just year on year, but as a club, as through your history.
Well, I think that's been proved with Warrington answered this year.
Yeah.
They set off, they won 8 matches and they'd won the Super League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Wigan boys rolled into town.
Yeah, Sam Cassiano.
Not playing any of them boys.
Actually, we'll get onto that.
First game what mattered.
First time they played 2 proper teams.
And rolled them
They
over.
got
And then they were second all of a sudden.
Now, we have got to talk about 2 low points really. Losing the grand final in 14 and the grand final in 15 back to back. For a spell in the Wane, 3 back-to-back grand finals probably didn't get the recognition that we deserved.
Well, we won in 16.
But I mean,
in
his first 3 years of 13, in his first 4
in
years.
12 he lost a centre.
Yeah.
But he went in 13, 14, 15 and 16.
Sorry.
So it was a tremendous achievement.
But we walked away with 2 out of 4 in
Double
5 years.
13 as well.
And blew 2 games.
Obviously, the 14-1 goes down to a Benflower punch.
It does, but I think it's important that we was in that game for the whole of the game.
I still think to this day we were the better team in that game.
We scored first despite being down to 12.
We was in the game.
I always remember being sat behind it.
I think it was
Burgess rat on half time.
I was in front of
Paul
Gary
Gregg.
Schofield there and he had a bet on.
We had
Joe Burgess' first try.
Mango
Yeah.
in second half from
Yeah.
full-back was outstanding. And he'd made a bit of a break and tried to offload a ball to Bateman coming on an inside run. And Bateman shimmied.
Forget
And
where the
he
bit was
didn't
there.
quite get his hands to it, dropped it. That was one moment, and then there was another one where Faz made a break out left-hand side, was trying to find, in 15, was trying to find Budgie, didn't quite find him, and we didn't finish it off, did we? We had the chances,
No.
took the 2 when we were
And also there was the Maguire.
4 in front of
Still-
6, and we had them on the road.
Still,
and we
it
didn't
still
get
haunts
going.
me now, taking 2.
Which,
Yeah.
But in that,
That Maguire knock on, you just mentioned
And Maguire knock on.
right in front of all the Wigan supporters.
I think it was in 2014 where we had Mickey Matt miss out just before the game, didn't we?
That was
yeah,
huge.
George playing there. So, go on, I know you're going to talk about this one.
I was going to say, in 14, I always remember, even though we were down to 12, we had at one point a 3-man overlap, and we'd strip Saints and numbers, and I was going, this is a serious, we're down to 12, it looks like they're down to 12. That actually shows probably how
That's
we're on
one
top.
No, that's one that got away. You only have to look at the first 2 minutes of that game. We were turning a new one in every channel and whatever. It's just, you can't look past that second minute, because he did what he did, and then it totally changed the game. It gave them a 20% lift, never mind the numerical advantage. It gave them a lift and a belief that I honestly believe they didn't have before game. We keep our cool that day.
I
You're
think
talking-
talking record grand
You're
final.
talking,
I really do.
they'd have murdered them.
I really do.
And then we go on to 15, sorry, on to 15, and we lose 22-20 to Leeds.
I almost think that hurt much more than
We did
Yeah,
That's my whistle.
I think that's my response.
Yeah.
That I've been to.
There was incidences in that, the knock-on.
Was it Manfredi and Walters? That kicked a corner. Where
Walters scored the last try in the game, didn't he?
We had 15 minutes left when Walters scored.
Listen, they had a rubber green first half, made the most of it, but we were back in the game, rolling them over and over and over. We scored 2 tries, went in front,
Right back in it again.
but we were 4 in front, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we get a penalty about 40 yards, 35 yards out, and everybody's screaming, run, run. They were gone. They were out on the feet, and we stopped the game 2-2 and never got the momentum back.
Yeah. That game, that's one that feels like a kicker too. I think all of us in here, that those incidences, I remember, I think with about a minute left, Tony Clubb put a kick in, and you're like, we just panicked as well.
Listen, this is
that's what needed.
this is
We got subbed off, didn't it?
Yeah.
3 minutes.
so this is something that's rather a controversial opinion, and I'm bringing it to the table. But me and Johnny and Jim have talked about this particularly me and Johnny, probably for about 5-6 years. That Kevin Sinfield in our team managing the game better, we probably had another 2-3 grand finals to our total. Now that's not to say Sean O'Loughlin was outstanding as a player, a leader, etc. But our game management at times has led us down in grand finals.
That was always the thing that was thrown at this team, I think, was the game management once we got ahead.
You know, you guys won't remember, but to us, Sinfield and how we spoke to the ref when there was a penalty, walk over, get the ball, hold it, I'm in charge, I know what I'm doing. Very much reminded me of Ellery Hanley.
Yeah.
You know, and he was the one.
Class act.
Yeah, I'll give him his due as a captain.
Yeah.
You know, an organiser. Individually as a player, he's got strengths and weaknesses and whatever, and I'd have had a look in any day of the week, but he got them over, and I just think our game management at times has let us down. That's why, and I know we're going to come back to that when we start talking about this season and the thing. I think in the last 10 games we've managed games a lot better. And it's a part of the game that doesn't get looked at. People look at tries and assists and big hits and whatever, but just a Kermade, put the ball in the most boring place.
Lee away, perfect
Yeah,
example. 25
minutes
of solid hard work,
Yeah.
nothing else. Great kicking, hard work.
So just to finish on that, well, I'm not saying finish, just on that Leeds game, it's another one that got away, and we've definitely left. I think we've, what is it? We've lost 6 and won 5.
About 5 and 7 actually.
Yeah, we
lost 6.
I think we've lost 6 and we've won 5. This is
which is a record.
We should actually be more like 8 and 4. You know what I mean? We should be the other way around. But
Leeds was a signal.
Leeds was a signal, like I said.
The other one was against Saints. That one was.
Well, you could have stopped him winning treble as well, and it's
Yeah. Good point.
Well, from that, we then get to 2 grand final victories in 16 and 18, both against Warrington.
Yeah.
Both when Warrington had took the lead in 16, they got to a 6-point lead and a 4-point lead in 18. And the 18 one seems to stick with me more with the return of Don Manfredi and the back end of that season.
And Sam's last game.
And Sam's last game in a Wigan
Not
shirt.
just Sam, really.
Wayne's
Last game at the time.
Yeah.
John Baker, Ryan Sutton. They
A
were
lot happened after that game.
Yeah, I mean, my memories of them 2 games really were that we were a very attritional team.
Yeah.
And we learned how to grind wins. And
They were very similar games, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were very
You can't stand here and
as well.
ridiculously magic moments.
Like
I'm going
2
to
points
like
difference for
Very similar score, yeah.
Manfredi scoring and Charlie scoring from the kick from Sergis in 06
Yeah.
individually.
The
But they weren't
scorelines
great
tell you
tries. We
Yeah.
didn't play fantastically or whatever, but we ground wins out against, if we're being honest, not great Warrington teams.
I mean, Deck Patton scored all the points in 2016.
Yeah, so
They weren't as good as the 13.
no,
not a
I
chance.
fancied
Yeah,
us in
I
them
think
games. We
Yeah.
won. Yeah, I fancied them.
John.
We won. you know, you just did the job and got them done. I don't think they were finals that you would look back on in years to come and
So they
remember.
were classics.
Yeah.
Just for the
classics
Brady
are
thing,
great.
I think you would look at it.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, that was outstanding.
I still can't believe that 2016 year that we won it, with all the injuries that we had throughout that year. I mean, it was really a couple of years where we had loads of injuries like 2016.
Exactly.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm just going to set one up here for somebody who talks about this. It props up every 2 months that Big Frank Paul Nuasala gets steak off the Wigan fans or whatever, but that 10-12 games from end of season,
I don't think we win it.
he carried that back along with a very young Ryan Sutton.
Yeah.
Who was
It
outstanding.
was another lad who caught a lot of
And
flack
even
too.
in 17, both of them lads were fantastic through another injury crisis.
Never missed a game, they were solid.
No, never missed a game.
In all time he was at Wigan, he played every single game.
Yeah.
I think I do think that comes down to the fact that he came as the wrecking ball in inverted commas.
Yeah, but it's also idiots who don't understand the game.
Yeah.
They expected him to go blasting up the field 50 metres every time he got the ball.
For 50 minutes.
Yeah.
We're actually
After 25.
it was his defensive efforts that he was known as the wrecking ball for. But when you look, put it this way, 12-18 months later, we were crying out for a Nuasala and Ryan Sutton.
Yeah.
We were absolutely crying out for him.
Yeah.
That's a conversation
like
for another day.
Ponga and Smith once he won the last time.
Once
Yeah,
off with Warners in that playoff game.
Yeah.
Well, then we come on to our last grand final visit, which was 2020. Obviously, the COVID year. It was held in Hull, and we lose to Saints. Probably, I can still remember kicking the couch.
I remember kicking your mum. No, listen. We talked a few minutes ago about game management, and you can talk about a million things that game. What we did in that last 2 minutes was suicidal. Almost. It was ridiculous.
There was quite a lot of big moments in that. We actually got over the line first with a Hardacre try, but he was playing on the wing, and obviously they held. Well,
Maybe scored.
Yeah.
They held Hardacre up 2 minutes after Joe Burgess had gone off for a concussion, and we'd swapped the team around, and Hardacre had gone to the left wing, and he wasn't a winger, obviously, and he does Budgie score there. We give a penalty away just before half time with about 30 seconds left that Cook kicks to go 2-0 up at half time, rather than it being 0-0.
He tackled him on his chest.
That was another bad one.
They then Bibby scores first, but we actually blew a Bibby chance about 10 minutes earlier where we throw the ball in touch and he effectively had a free.
That's what I remember from this. But a bit like you said before, Andrew, was it the Leeds game saying an offload didn't find Bateman's hands and he knocked on. We had the chances, but we didn't execute. Everyone remembers this final, obviously, for the bounce of the ball, but I remember this one as being a bit of one that got away because we had the opportunities to score points and get the game, but there was a ball in touch, a ball to the floor. We had the overlaps, so I'm going, it's there, and then it just failed.
That
was the execution.
That summed us up in that period of time.
It was the execution.
No, we weren't clinical in it.
Outstanding individuals, but not a
Nothing
proper
clinical.
Not executing when it mattered.
Like, if in doubt, kick it.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I've got to say that. I'm saying like a bit hypocritical. I've got word it was. We were best team. We played well that day. You know, I don't think anybody kind of expected us to compete. We did, and then blew it. You know, so I think we can. That, like I said, that last 2 minutes, we could probably sit here and certainly around that time and dissect it for the next 6 months. But again, it comes down to game management. And
the only thing we was really weak on at that time, we used to get trapped in the corner, didn't we? We would have the back to take us out.
Yeah,
we had a relatively young lad, and just
well,
like we're sticking up for Nuasala, to a lesser extent, we probably don't get there and probably don't compete if we don't have Brad Singleton. And he takes a lot of stick. But Brad Singleton for 18 months when he came, and then the next 12 months was very, very good for us.
He got a lot of stick when we signed him as well.
Yeah.
But he still had some good years.
You know, do I think he's a 9 or a 10 out of 10 player? No, at his best he's probably a 7 out of 10. But what you got was that 7 every week. He was tough. Nobody to
he never
make
took a
out
backward
of
step,
it.
really, did he?
No, he wasn't great with ball in hand or whatever. But what I'm saying is he was uncompromising. If anybody tried to pick on some of them younger lads around him, he would have a bit of a go. And Yeah,
He
so
always
so
wanted to lead the defensive line up singles.
popular members as well.
He probably had
Yeah,
a point to prove as well, didn't he? Because he was at Toronto and then we signed him and everyone thought,
Yeah, I think
but
if
it's
a prop forward's
finished
doing 8
But it-
metres every time he gets the ball, he's done his job.
yeah,
Yeah.
but what I would say, Jimmy, that game and that last couple of minutes, as much as I talk about we should have kicked it a touch and gone for a 1, there's so many little things. Erdacre was our right centre, and we sent him over to the left centre to kick the goal and didn't swap anybody back.
Yeah.
I always remember Tommy Lulu.
Yeah.
I was sat facing wrong
Tommy
way.
Luluai was sat on the touchline facing the other way, not watching what was going on. We kicked the
And
goal.
we all know it's not going to be dead.
No, because he can't
He can't
reach that far. And then when you put the chase on, I can remember Isa going, Bibby really going, turning round, and nobody else went with them.
And we let Lomax get
And
40
then
passes.
you then couple that with, you look at Lomax catching that ball 5 yards
Shot
as
from
we're
that.
looking to the right of them sticks. He didn't catch it and go straight back to where the ball had come from or whatever. He immediately attacked to our right side
He
defence.
took a split second to have a look as well, and then that's Lomax,
caught
who's a
that.
very, very good player.
Yeah, he caught that ball and they made 25 metres on that from receiving it. It should never have happened. He should have been under them sticks being absolutely
Pinned into his 10.
pinned into his 5
Yeah.
over the line. But what that play, fair play from
Followed that kick,
Lomax,
didn't
that's what got him into position for what happened a minute or so later. And I just think we've seen it before with Sinfield at Magic. They follow kicks up.
Yeah.
They put everything. And I just think that was a bit of a weakness there, that our forwards and whatever, we just weren't ready.
I was just going to say it was interesting when I look back at it that I rang you today and said like Morgan Smithies and Sean O'Loughlin both started on the bench, and Smithies had come on and played from the 25th minute, and we actually only subbed O'Loughlin on the minute that we got that penalty. He came back on in the 77th. I can't remember if he was on the field when we received that penalty.
I think he was. Because I can remember in my head thinking, why are we not doing this?
2015.
Why are we not doing it? It was in my head at that time. But listen, the top line is we knew what it was. Relatively, I know you're going to talk. We can talk about 3 players there: Lachlan, Luluai, and Faz was at the prime probably, or should I say?
A very, very young
very
side.
young team. Very young team. When you consider that, like, you know, your Smithies, Pertingtons, they're only like 24, 25 now,
No.
even 23, and they were very young.
It still feels like one that got away, but
Yeah,
it doesn't even count because
yeah.
it was in COVID. So
Yeah,
you could have got every single one in that.
Mm.
From about 10 to the Bradford
one
thing,
yeah,
it was
it was
that got away.
came in.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right, we'll take a quick break though. When we come back, we'll have a talk about this season and then preview Saturday's game. Thank you. So thank you for coming back. We're going to have a little review of the season so far, and I think we're all in agreement of the general flow of this season. We started off quite well, nothing too spectacular, but a bit of a feeling of we were building into the season and looking to get better. And obviously, one of the first real major games was going to Lee, who were flying at that point and getting a good win away at the Sports Village. But that sort of sent a first cast of doubt really into the season with Field getting injured, and was ruled out for 7 to 8 weeks if I remember right.
It said 7 to 8 and it ended up being exactly that, yeah. 6 or 7, so.
But that led to probably one of a certain player's best moment, Joe Shorrocks, the Messiah, as Cameron, you called him. Good Friday, a real, I think it was like a statement win, like that we were serious and we could play without our star men. And obviously like Bevan, Harry Smith really stood up that day.
We certainly matched them up front.
Yeah.
You know,
It was a bit like a grand final.
Yeah.
It was played at that level of intensity.
Yeah, big crowd.
Yeah.
The
Big
atmosphere was
expectation.
brilliant that day.
Knocking them back from start.
Yeah, we were at each other all the
Drinks
time.
here, or-
Yes.
But I think that
I'm
level of
eating food this week.
I think that level of intensity was there, and in previous seasons, Saints had probably been dominant in the pack against us, but we'd really stood up to them in this game, and it was a bit of a. I think that sent a bit of shockwaves into Saints, and it really lifted us of actually we can compete with them, and it gave us a bit of a real lift into that into the rest of the season at that point. Be interesting to hear your guys.
We had that run, didn't we? We lost a couple of games that we probably shouldn't have.
Lost our first game of the season.
And there was other little bits as well, losing to Catalan at home against a big set of forwards on an awful night. But
I've never been as cold.
I can remember going into that thing and looking into that run of games where we had Lee away, we had Saints at home, and then a Warrington team that had, won X amount up to that point, and we were looking and thinking, really, if we get one win out of them three, we've probably done well. And that type of attitude, to kind of coming out of it with 3 wins, and being honest with you, probably got a little bit of ahead of ourselves.
You think, I think with 3, certainly 2 comfortable wins.
Did we have Castleford in that? We had
No.
Wakefield after that.
No.
Warrington game, we played Wakefield and went top going into international.
Yeah. So we had an inspiring performance.
It was the perfect game for us.
We rested a couple of players, but actually we went to Hull on that Thursday night the week after.
It was after the international break.
And it kind of, we had a bit of a dull night over in Hull or whatever, which led to the Leeds game the week after with the 12 men. So
I just wanted to say that we actually spoke about that probably in the 3rd or 4th episode, that we were coming up to Lee, Saints, Warrington. Warrington were 8 from 8 and won everything at that point, so we don't even need to mention that. They'd won the March Cup, and Saints had come off a World Cup challenge, and we'd picked up the field injury, and we were sort of thinking if you could get 2 from 4, including the Wakefield game, probably snatch your hands off. Maybe I'd snatch your hands off at 3 at that point. To come 4 from 4, I think you said it right there. We probably got a little bit ahead of ourselves and going, we're doing it without field. Wait until he's back.
Got a little bit carried away, but you also remember that we came out of that losing Cooper. We lost a couple of all. I think we lost ISO. We lost KPP for a spell.
Forget about that.
Custwood lost as well.
Yeah, we lost Custwood. So we were ahead in terms of results on the table, but we looked a little bit of a busted team, and being honest, I don't think we found that April form where we won them games. I don't think we kind of got that back until July. We really went through May, June, early July. That 10 weeks, bit up and downish, week on week. Some good wins in there, some okay performances. Looking in isolation, it might not have looked impressive or whatever. Looking in hindsight, 10 weeks ago, we put the foot to the floor and suddenly looked like we had another 2 gears to go into. You ask that age-old question, if we'd have put the foot to the floor in May, June and July, would we be doing it now? No. And it's the age-old question. I don't think you'll ever be able to answer it, but in hindsight, the way we managed those 8, 9, 10 weeks.
The Saturday afternoon at home to Lee was the start of it, I think.
Yeah, and we got lucky there that we had Lee and OK on either side of that Challenge Cup final. We were able to rest a few, run a few points up.
Points difference.
I was just all through the season, I always thought, Matt, I think we're saving it for Challenge Cup and do it again. And just build on that, which we got to a semi-final.
One thing that impressed me through that period, like we said, we went a bit average there before we got back up, was even though when we did slip off, we always managed to bounce back. So you mentioned that we went away and obviously lost to Hull, we bounced back. We lost to Leeds with 12 men, but then we went and beat them third place in the Challenge Cup, coming from behind in that game. So we was always able, even though we took a step back, we never took 2 steps back. We showed that fight.
We got beat at Saints after Magic. No, Magic's the one that stands out as the awful, goddamn awful performance. But
you lose at Saints any year.
Yeah, but when we went Saints, scoreline might look 34-16 for them, but actually 50 minutes into that game, we'd been their equals and just had a few decisions not quite go our way, and just again not quite, with all these players out and missing. And actually I remember coming away thinking, we just need 10%, be 10% better, and we can build from this.
Well, that spell, that month, I just want to talk about one more time. We lost to Hull on a Thursday night, I think it was.
Thursday night.
14-10. We lost to Leeds 40 points to 18 after being 18-6 up with Tetavano red carded 2 minutes before our time, and we imploded, basically conceding. We got an Ian Thornley try, but we conceded best part of 30 odd points in the second half to 12 men at Leeds. A game that sort of everyone really forgets about was that the Hull KR extra time win at Hull KR.
Yeah.
That stopped it being 5 losses in 5.
That was probably one that we got back. That was probably a game that we didn't necessarily deserve to win and got it back.
With a Miskey try in the last minute, and then a piece of French magic.
But without preempting it, we went to Wakefield and probably were best team and lost that one to good point, to golden point. So
we had that one 5 times.
So I think the thing is that we've never strung together a 7-8-9 game spell where we thought we were the best team in the league, but also as Lewis put it, we never strung a 7-8-9 game spread together where we thought we were the worst team in the league. No, we bounced back, we'd win 2 or 3, okay, we'd lose 1.
We got back into that sort of that Warrington at home.
I was just going to say, from that...
We had Ellis firing, we in the home game in the league, obviously got red carded in the cup. We had Piers Paul was immense, and who else had come back then?
That was his first game back, Ellis, from that panel, wasn't it?
I was just
Ethan Havard was back.
He was back for the Challenge Cup game, and then we had a
That's
couple.
when he did his
So,
album.
and listen, we're going to go on to the second half of the season now, but we've had to do this with...
We've definitely
Forget the Burn situation. For 2/3 of the season without Cooper, we've done probably 2/3 of our season without Havard in 2 separate
or
spells.
Ellis, at least.
And then Ellis has missed probably a third of the season through his indiscretions or whatever. So we've had
to on fire in Mago at times.
This is another interesting point. Burn and Mago were big targets for the Boo Boys around July time. But guess what? They were 2 players that had played every game up until that point.
Well, it was evident with Matty Pete's statement about Burn playing with injury.
You don't hear coaches say that.
And
You don't do that, but
he said
made
he
it clear, didn't it?
He was playing with the pain-killing injury.
Clear.
Very interesting.
We had, was it the Challenge Cup final the week off, and then he didn't play the week after?
Yeah.
But he come back for 5-6 games before he's now injured. He's gone and carried our pack that was missing Ellis, Havard, Cooper.
We got talked
Piers
about
Paul.
it when we went to France, but that was Burns' game where he would have stood up then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
After being...
So listen, we talk about individuals there, but as a club, as a set of players, Matty Pete has to guide you through them tough times, and it's possibly physics, science, biology.
He always talks about the squad, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, but you mean we probably couldn't put the foot to the floor in May, June, July, because
we didn't have the personality.
We couldn't dominate games, no.
We'd have lost Mago and Burn, and we'd have been done.
Correct. So he's navigated on the quiet, because a team not too far away from here over the hill have been whinging and moaning about having 2 props out for 8 weeks.
Yeah. One of them was only 4 and a bit. But.
Yeah, we've had 3 props out and a second roller out, probably basically 3/4 of the season.
I think Kai Piers Paul missed half the season.
Yeah.
We had Kai Piers Paul and Isa injured simultaneously for so long.
And then I managed to play 3 positions and
field out for
8 weeks.
So you've got to give Pete a lot of credit for getting through them tough spells. It's been very easy.
Just picking up enough wins to stay quiet.
Very easy to make excuses, really.
He
doesn't cheat the game.
No. But there's also things as well where he could have, when he was under pressure, tried to throw all his eggs in one basket. You've got to get a winner, you've got to get a whatever. He didn't push it too far. He played the game.
I know we talked about Darryl Powell and Warrington being 8 from 8, but there was that feeling around Warrington when they lost a couple of games and they didn't go whatever, and he called out some of the players for not putting in performances, that it felt like we have to win next week, and they didn't, and everything just went flat in Warrington, and then there was the pictures of him not leaving the box. It felt like...
But he also picked players and didn't trust other players.
Yeah.
So what he did with Matotia and playing him at half-back, playing him in pack, playing Darryl Clark at loose forward, and not trusting some of the other players that should have come in. Yeah, he's never really done that, Pete. He's played when he's had to do. Yeah,
he's trusted Hampshire. He's trusted December and guided him into the team.
The Hills are coming and doing a job.
Yeah. And obviously
O'Neill as well, trusted him to play.
Thanks
we've
trusting O'Neill, we've not missed Powell as much as...
No, we've missed Powell for 8, 9, 10 weeks, didn't
Powell we didn't even mention before.
No, we've been lucky that we've not missed him more because he's usually so influential for us.
Is that one of our leaders, isn't he? One of our experienced heads in the
spine.
spine.
He's done such a good job.
One thing we have been lucky, whether that's the right phrase, is our 3 quarters and Harry Smith.
Yeah.
I know we're talking here about the lost cost, I get that, but we know what we've done here with French, with Miskey coming. But if you have a look, apart from that field 7-8 week spell, French, Miskey, King, Wardle, Harry Smith, they've played every game.
Yeah.
And not look like they were.
They've not been passengers in them games.
No. Not like they've strapped them up.
Particularly 2 centres.
Yeah, the 2
carrying
centres
the ball 20 times a game. And
they've been fantastic.
Incredible.
If you want to draw parallels between this year and the 2010 team, like Jimmy did earlier, then the 2 centres. I don't think we've had 2 centres as good as Carlton Gleeson until now.
We had 3-4 years where we was playing second rows as Sands.
Yeah.
We've actually signed 2 centres for play centres this year.
Also, the way we play our games, our centres play like prop forwards at other clubs. You know, so
do well. Marshall do as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
When I look at stats as well, in Toby King 100 metres every game, Wardle touching 100.
Yeah.
It's a big
getting defensive work down there. But then from that 4 out of 5, that low point there, we go on a little bit of a run, a Challenge Cup win against Warrington, 12 men. That was the game that Harry Smith stood up for me and has really kicked on his season individually. We beat Salford away at Salford and Huddersfield at home. I think my worst game was the Wakefield away. I was distraught after that. That was just losing an extra time the way that we did.
It's like,
I think also with that game, when we were talking the last 2 or 3 weeks about winning the League Shield, we thought that was the one that
possibly it cost us.
That game. That was so frustrating.
It just meant we had to go to Leigh and win on the last week.
We could have had it wrapped up a week earlier.
We could have had it wrapped up a week earlier, potentially.
And if we don't win on points difference, you're probably looking at that one. But from that, we beat Warrington again, and then we have the Challenge Cup semi-final loss. The 11-10. We've talked about that quite a bit, and you can look at decisions and not be happy with how that game went.
We've played Hull KR so many times.
But what I've got to say is it then, from that point, we got good with the draw that we played Leigh and Hull KR either side of them playing in the Grand Final, of the Challenge Cup.
Brought Tyler Dupree in.
We brought Tyler Dupree in, Brad Singleton went on to Salford. But that really, then, we seem to up a gear.
I'm not sure this is the best way to describe it, but the only question mark I've had about Wigan was if we'd put the foot to the floor too early. In other words, I kept thinking, are we going to run out of steam? Are we going to run out of steam? Because what is definite is that semi-final defeat galvanised them. And we got better and stronger.
If we'd have beat Hull KR in that semi-final, I think we'd have run out of steam then.
Maybe.
Not necessarily run out of steam. I think he'd have had to re-evaluate.
I don't think we'd have finished top.
He might have had to win a game and then be prepared to come and do it from
I've never been able to get my head
France
round why a Challenge Cup final derails your league season
It always
for
does.
about 4 weeks.
It always does.
Why? It's a game.
I think it's much more than that, Jimmy. It's all the focus that goes on, the stuff you have to do off the field.
The interviews.
It's probably mentally draining as well.
Wear your leopard suits.
If you've not been there before,
Listen, listen, you win big games and celebrate big games, you know.
It's just me, that's the way I look at it. And on that note, that's why I used to love going to Wembley, you know, as you know. But if it's going to derail my season, as a like spec is, we go every week, it's going to be derailed because of a Challenge Cup win.
Well, it's weird. Last year when we played Huddersfield, we got out of it quite well.
We
played
got away with Cass week after. First half we were terrible. And second half we were really good.
But that game was played in May. So if the cup final was always in May,
you have time to recover.
You can reset and go again, can't you?
But we came out of that probably with 4 favourable fixtures after that Challenge Cup final. We beat Cass, Salford, Toulouse and Waking. We lose to Leeds and Saints the weeks after, but you can lose to them at any point in the season. We sort of got away with it there. With this kick-on after that final, there was the worry of running out of steam. We won 44-18, 64-6, 13-12 with a Harry Smith drop goal.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of stick for that game. We got a lot of stick for that game, and I remember a few people, when you talk to them in pubs, who, I think Johnny, you know what I mean.
But again, we had a week off before.
You know, slagging them off, and they'll never be any good, and he's no good, and blah blah blah, whatever. But you have to remember that old team gave St Helens a good outing a week earlier.
Yeah,
beat them with 25 points, and it was terrible conditions.
Awful. Get Catalan week after, you could argue they had one eye on that.
Yeah,
so a big game.
So I wasn't too bothered about that game. You're reading results out, yeah? I'm going to tell you, look at those players. They never looked fatigued. They never looked like they'd lost their legs. No. In fact, actually, week on week, they look like they're getting stronger. And I kept thinking, will that drop? And it's not. No. You look at them Wigan lads running out.
It's arguably stayed
at that level,
if not gone up.
If not gone up a level, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think it peaked the week after that whole game going to Catalans. We talked on here before about being a little bit concerned that they were the only team we hadn't beat yet. Lost to them twice.
Probably a mental block and worried about it.
And they've been talking all week about how hot it was going to be.
It weren't.
I'll tell you what, it was hot day before.
42 degrees.
It's thunder and lightning. Again.
With a bit of a foggy.
But
that was usually
to go to Catalans there and to be them concerned, and they were 4 points clear at the top of the league.
Let's not spend too much time talking about that game because it links into previewing the final, which we'll do in a minute. But what you can say is that day left a mark.
Yeah.
I think
that's left a mark there.
I don't think he just left them out with Catalan. I don't think he just left them out with Catalan and us. I feel like it sent shockwaves through the league a little bit.
Everybody went,
Or
didn't see that one.
It felt like that penny dropped and everyone went, suddenly people were talking about us to be favourites to win the league. And we were still 2 points behind Catalan. We still needed results to go our way, but we were being talked now about being favourites. It started as Wire, and then it had gone to Catalan, and then that week it seemed to switch, and everyone put us to be favourites, along with Saints who've been there because of the history.
It was a marker. It was and you know, it didn't start that day. It started 3-4 weeks earlier, but it certainly made the rest of the league sit up and take notice. We weren't under the radar anymore, and we've handled that very well. The 5-6 games after, we've handled it very well.
It felt like 2 different seasons, obviously, building up to that Catalan game, and then this is.
It was the performance as well. Obviously, the results are a massive thing, don't get me wrong, but it was the manner of the win. I know I've talked about this on previous podcasts. The best story for me was Catalan when they took that penalty, tapped it on the first drive. We got over 10 metres in field, 3 men getting tackles, throwing over. And it's that manner of, do you know what I mean? That's the bit which was terrible.
We were lucky to be at the game, and there was, in the first half, playing away from us, there was a spell where we got a couple of penalties, but we got a bit of a roll on and get going at them. And I just remember looking and glancing at big screen and seeing Mickey Mack, seeing Navarrete, seeing a couple of their forwards going back, looking like they were running on 50%, you know, like they haven't got the battery.
They knew they'd been it.
Yeah.
The Luke lads had already been beaten.
And our lads, we
With
talked
an hour
about it so much, probably with a lot of drinking us and we were getting carried away. We looked like we could physically match them, physically dominate them, but we got more legs in
There
them.
was only
We ran them off the feet.
one attack from Davis, I think down left-hand side down. Yeah, they even got near our line.
Yeah.
First start.
And-
chance of a kick
And it's a little pet thing of mine, and we've been talking about it in the pubs and at the games for a long time. It was one of the first signs I'd seen of us being boring, prepared to kick into the corner, chase, make teams come away from their own line instead of pushing plays. You know, when we went 6-0, what we didn't try and do was go side to side, end up in touch, knocking on the ball or whatever. What we did was we got ball back, put 5 drives in, knocked hell out of them, and kicked a corner and chased.
But in March, we was overplaying.
We were overplaying.
It's funny you should say that because the last 3 games I've had people at the back of me saying to me, why do we keep doing these aimless kicks into the corner?
Always someone says
It's
been the
game
point.
That league game was
you know.
the amount of
It's happened at the game on Saturday, and I said to this bloke, "Is it creating pressure, mate?" Oh right, it's boring though, isn't it? I said, yeah. Next minute, okay, I knocked on, and I said,
yeah,
"Basic point, pal."
You know,
He went,
the game at Leeds where we ended up winning 50-0, that first 20-25 minutes, guy behind us slagging Harry Smith off. And I said, why is he doing that? I said, because that Uli and these men will just keep dropping ball under pressure. But, I just want to say this for this bit, and I know we're going to talk about it with the preview. Congratulations to Bevan French, got the man of steel. You know, over Jack Wellsby, who I think's been Saints' probably best player by a long way. I wonder where Saints would be without Jack Wellsby this season, if I'm honest with you. Yeah. But there's a difference between being the best player in the league, the best player for your club, and the most influential. And there is absolutely no doubt about it. Harry Smith is our most influential. Harry Smith has been outstanding.
Well, go back to, like, we've watched Wigan together for years and years now, haven't we? We always talk about platforms. You've got to create a platform before you can start playing your open rugby. And a lot of people don't understand that. Yeah. Especially, I'm going to go with the modern fan, but all they want to do is go on the field and ping it out. You earn that right to do that.
Matty Pete respects that though.
Yeah.
He respects the game and he never ever wants to cheat the system and throw the ball around.
Well, it's like Andy Gregg used to say it's about Andy Platt and them lads, the pigs.
Yeah.
You're the pigs, you go and do that and we'll play on back here. Yeah. And without the pigs we can't win.
Well,
and it's true.
It's weird we talk about that in the Hull KR game, that we do try and play on the first set with the game last week, where French goes down the blind side. But we've gone big drive.
Ellis Dupree.
We've got to.
When do you ever see the half?
Normally to be centred as a winger.
I'll come away from that. I know we played there, he spotted, they numbered up wrong.
I thought the winger had dropped back me. When I watched it back I thought,
it's always got a thing to it.
It's just not there.
The bigger thing for me was 18-6 up, going into the second half. We rolled them. Field made an half break in that left-hand corner. What we didn't do was try and do something stupid. We kicked the ball, landed it 2 yards from their line.
Right on top of Kenny Doe.
They dropped it. But the key bit is, if he doesn't drop it, he's going nowhere. And 2 minutes later, we did exactly the same thing and dropped it on him again.
You haven't got the same result. In a different corner.
No, I know they've turned out as tries. The key bit is what happens if they're not.
They don't score from that set.
Correct.
They can't go 90 metres.
We're prepared to play in them areas.
If he jumps up and catches it there, you just tackle him. You have to plan.
Yeah. And you look across the league, there's not many teams that have the pace that we have to go 90 metres. From a break.
There's no team with the pace of our 3/4.
So
can't live with it.
You keep asking teams to come 90 metres.
It's been on the game plan for the last 10 games we've been on this run for. How many times have we seen Harry Smith kick on the third, head and down and play the game?
Because the league game was case in point of that.
Yeah.
For last 25 minutes, all we did was kick the ball.
That's it.
It's playing like a team with the league.
Because we knew they couldn't come 80 and 90 metres.
It's been our blueprint.
It's going to sound silly, all these 40 or 50 point wins have still been based on defence.
Turning
the ball round, turning round.
And Harry Smith taking us round the park. Harry's been immense this season.
And with some credit for
And all these people
he's
who
been all
slag the lad, I don't see many of them there, you know, putting their hands up and saying we were wrong.
Yeah.
Because what I couldn't understand all the time, that people were slagging Harry, they based it on his goal kicking, not what he was doing on the pitch, taking the team round and doing what it, because he couldn't kick goals. It's a lottery goal kicking.
Well, I've got more experiences than that, Jimmy, which is people saying to me, he'll never be any good. He's no good, he's no running game. No, I'm not going to go into all this conversation. You know, but you know, if you're looking for a scrum half back in your day, an Alex Murphy or an Andy Gregg that did X, Y, Z, we need Harry Smith to guide us around that part.
I think he's our Kevin Sinfield.
Yeah. And that's a great analogy that he's growing into that role.
And you said something, Andrew, like 10 weeks ago, 12 weeks ago. I know you was a bit unsure on Harry at first, weren't you?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
But he said he will be the next Wigan captain.
Yeah.
Oh,
And there's no doubt about that.
He's wearing Wigan's biggest shirt.
Yeah.
The number 7.
For the first time.
The first time.
It's his first year wearing 7.
So
Took it off Tommy Little.
there's a group of
Took it off Tommy Little.
there's a group of lads there that are playing well beyond their years.
Yeah.
And
Massive.
when you look at Harry Smith, when you look at Brad O'Neill and what he's done this year, what Morgan Smithies has done, it's been outstanding.
When you
But
look at
what Kai Pearce-Paul, who I not say wrote off, that's the wrong phrase, but basically I doubted if he got the heart,
The grip.
the toughness.
I think everybody did.
Yeah.
Because we've not seen it. Because we've not seen it.
Yeah, but since he's come back, his toughness, that play, he's better when he's not offloading. He's better when he drives it straight, plays the simple stuff. He's such a big body.
Excellent.
He's hard to handle. But coming back to those three, Smithies with his 40, 50 tackles every game, and he's 70 minutes every game, and he's driving it in. Brad O'Neill's been outstanding week on week.
Played 80 minutes for a lot of them games.
And Harry Smith, average age of them lads, 22 years of age, they've been absolutely outstanding.
Miss Liam Burnett though, for what he's done.
No, I get that.
Years.
I'm talking now, Liam Burns, unfortunately, he's going to miss the end of the season.
Yeah.
But to have such young lads, Kai Pearce-Paul, December to come in and whatever, they're playing more like 27-year-olds than they're playing as 21, 22-year-olds. And
What
it's
guys like
fantastic.
Smith and O'Neill and Smith never get credit for is how they set up. Because how often do you see a try for Miskey or Marshall or somebody at wide French might score, and it's been set up by tackle 3, tackle 4, Ellis or Smithies going and just taking a tackle where the goal post is.
Yeah.
And
It was
everybody goes,
interesting,
spin
actually.
it wide.
Making sure the land on the front.
Spin it wide, but we landed on our front and a goal post. It's impossible to
You
number
just
up.
The Bevan French big screen thing, I wished it could have gone on for another 2 hours on Saturday, where he talked about we attack this stick because they'll number up X amount in defence, we'll do this. What you've got here is we've got Smithies who's going to come through, then Harry's going to take the line on, etc. It shows how complicated it is. You know, we sit here and we talk about things and we think we know a little bit about the game, but you listen to Bevan French talk about A defender, B defender, we got a 2-man inside and we're aiming for go to the goalpost so we can split them 5 and 6 and blah, blah. They actually said to him, did you know anything about this 10 weeks ago before you went playing at 6? No, I just played on wing, I just did what I did.
And it's trying to get half a yard of
But
space.
you're 9, you're 7, you're 6 and you're 13. Those guys are basically organising everything.
I was going to say, with him playing up, it's interesting to see about him not knowing that before he went in at 6. We played full back, and effectively at full back his job's relatively simple. Being the third man and picking the final pass or the final play. Coming in at 6 now and organising it and having to get us in the right place for Field to do that.
He's also the man stopping it.
Yeah.
Because when he's at the back, he's controlling who goes where. So it does surprise me that he's into where that.
I think defensively he's a great player as well.
But the big difference
And Harry
is
Smith again. You know how many big tackles he puts in it again.
His defence has been absolutely
It seems like his defence on top
That's
level.
what I want. He's
It's
not the
Breeze.
flashiest, he's not the biggest,
No.
but his goal gets stuck in.
he's got shitloads in here
Yeah.
Exactly.
where it matters.
You know.
Yeah.
So I know coming towards the end of the season and before we do the preview, the key bit for me is the difference between probably Wigan and St Helens, and fair play, Saints have got the pre-season and the World Cup Challenge and to contend with. But the difference is we look like we've got young lads, we've got plenty of legs in them, plenty size, plenty growth. We're Saints just
we're on the start of a journey.
Yeah,
I think they're at the end of their journey.
That's not to criticise them. What they've done is fantastic.
Yeah, they've been a great start.
We've kind of thought for 12, 18 months, since the Matty Peter appointment or whatever, we've kind of, and Wayne coming back in, we've kind of thought to ourselves, we're going to catch him, but when is in?
Yeah.
And to me, it's no. And we're the club. If you want to want somewhere in the next 2 years, where would you want to be?
Pretty similar to where Lennigan's two brought us on the journey.
Yeah.
But it shows the hard work from the last few years from young forwards like Berg, Havard, Smithers, even Pertington for a spell.
The difficult thing, Dale,
Them first coming through and looking at where they're at now is
their best players in this 4 in a row since have been British players mostly.
Well,
so
I think St Helens, I think past it has been a massive loss for them.
Yeah, but I think what his point is, Jimmy, is that it's much harder to replace key players when those key players are British players.
Yeah.
Because the pool is much harder to go into and get the right players. If you're 3, 4, 5 overseas players are coming to an end, you can dip into your overseas.
Get 3 or 4 overseas players, don't you?
Overseas players, but if your British players are coming towards an end, you can't dip into that Aussie market anymore.
They need to have the next Johnny Lomax to come in the next couple of years. Otherwise, what do they do? You can't sign someone.
Well, they don't have the next James Rowe because they've signed our Clark.
Exactly.
But what they've got now is an end by
They'll notice the difference.
And you can't get Darryl Clark in every position either because he'll be expensive.
But you know, I think Darryl Clark just spent force anyway now.
Even if he isn't though, and you get 2 good years out of him, you can't do that in every position.
Can I just say something on this point? I think we should just end it here because their season finished last week. But I think we'll worry about that next year, shall we? The key bit is
Warrington's ended in May.
I tell you what,
we look like we could play another 6-8 weeks. And that's the key bit to me. We don't look like we've got any heavy legs. We don't look like a club that's hanging on. We look like a club that wants to play next week and wants to play the week after.
And I don't think we'd have been bothered if we didn't have the week off.
No, I don't think so.
I felt Saints desperately needed that. Catalans to an extent needed it.
Yeah.
Catalan needs to be at home as well.
So, but overall, I don't think that the regular season has been outstanding.
No.
It's not like Maguire's 2010 or Wayne's 2012. It's been little ups and little downs. Obviously, we've had the Warrington and Saints over Easter, and we've had a couple of decent performances back end of year. But it's that last 8, 9, 10 weeks where he's put the foot to the pedal.
After the semi-final.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to end this section with one question for you all. Obviously, they had the awards last week, and the fans voted for Player of the Year, and Abbas Miski got that. I think it's fair to say 8 or 9 players could have very easily been in contention for that. My pick was Harry Smith. Sort of want to hear who you guys would have gone for.
Harry Smith. All day.
I voted for Harry Smith.
I think most of us would have voted for Harry Smith, and if not in Bevan, but we haven't really mentioned Abbas at all, really.
Oh, Josh Harris.
I feel so happy for Harry Smith.
Yeah.
Because in Toulouse he was ridiculed. He was the worst thing they ever pulled.
Which again,
if you look at the actual game, it wasn't that bad.
He dropped one ball.
He
dropped one ball. Another ball was like 5 players challenging for it, and he couldn't get anywhere near it. But again, we're going to touch on something here now. The same people that would have been absolutely criticising him are the same people that have probably voted him for as the Player of the Year. He can't do what he does without your Harry Smith, Bevan Frenchies, etc. No, give him his due. His work inside, he's been fantastic. This and the other. But I'm not saying he was doing what Pat Richards was doing in 2010. All I'm going to say is he's week in, week out to be a 21, 22-year-old scrum half and be our most influential player and key player week in, week out, has been outstanding.
Yeah.
When you consider all the criticism he's had as well, to
Yeah.
deal with that. What I've always liked about him, and I've said this many times to Jimmy, is when he makes a mistake, he never shies away.
No.
And
He goes again. He goes again. If he kicks it out on the full, he goes again. He doesn't. He's not frightened of playing, and that's.
I didn't see anybody else stepping up and taking drop goals against Hull FC when he missed them.
No, but and you know what he'd done? He'd have had another go, and another go, and another go, because he doesn't go hiding.
We played a game at home. We played a game at home. I think we lost, or we might have narrowly won. And I was actually critical of Harry Smith for over trying. He made a mistake. I think he kicked the ball out on the full, and then he was trying to fix it.
Yeah,
but that's not a criticism.
No. Yeah.
It is a thing. There is no argument that, like 2 years ago, 2021, Harry was making lots of mistakes. You know, overplaying and whatever.
But 19 behind.
And I had doubts. I kept thinking, will he do this? Will he do that? Because he didn't have a natural running game like a Longy or a Burrows could have gone, and Danny Maguire could have fallen back on, where he's going to beat 6 players as an individual thing. He had to be a good organiser and whatever. Now, I'll back what you said. Despite being unsure, he went and had another go, and he went and had another go, and he kept going. And there was an interview with Matty Pete last week or the week before, and they brought up the kicking thing and blah blah blah. He said, you know what he does? He works hard in training, and then we trust him. We work hard in training, and then we trust him. And it's very easy when you lose a game or you don't necessarily perform to want to say, take that ball off and give it somebody else, blah, blah, blah. What would that have done to him?
Where would he be now if he was a Warrington player?
He'd be playing at Bradford,
he'd be gone. They'd have been
whatever.
They'd have been like they did with Dec Patton.
With Dec Patton and Gareth O'Brien and many others.
And he's investing time in the right players at the right time.
And I'll give him his due. I mean, I know he's coming back from an Achilles injury, but Lewis Dodd at times has just been anonymous because something wouldn't quite go right and you wouldn't see him. Harry never did that. Harry was always asking for the ball and kicking the ball and doing the thing, probably hearing people say to him, why are you putting that kick in the boring corner or whatever, but he just kept doing it.
People say how many points have we dropped because of him and his goal kicking, but how many points has he won us?
How many games has actually lost us?
He's cost us a couple of times, you know. You could argue, but
we didn't lose at Wakefield because he missed kicks. We lost because we didn't score 15 tries like we should have done.
We let Wakefield score how many points?
27 points.
27.
Yeah, that's what we lost, yeah.
So your original question.
Yeah, we were there, come out.
So let's give him a chance. He's back to his original question. Who would you have voted?
If we have to say somebody different every time.
No, say anyone different.
Who would
I went for Harry Smith. Jimmy?
I voted for Harry.
Harry Smith, I voted for Harry.
I voted for Harry Smith, so
You know.
That's boring.
Is there only 7 votes?
If you couldn't vote for Harry Smith, I would have voted for Ben French.
I think the numbers have been ridiculous in terms of trying to say something.
This year, and when we signed him, was Toby King.
Yeah.
I watched his performances in the World Cup.
I was just about to say, he got slated at Hull KR in that first game.
Yeah, he did.
Sam Paul's testimonial as well.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, that day, I was screaming about Cust and KPP inside him. They were all over the place.
Yeah.
And he bore the brunt of their misgivings. Cust, I like Cust when he came, but that's a whole different conversation. But he weren't great defensively when he was playing well.
His
he
first
he was slapping at players.
Matty and Lewis.
Yeah, he was slapping at players or whatever, and then you've got KPP who was moved into the pack and
then he was
playing in the
centre.
second row as a starting second row. It was like game was too quick for him. So he took a lot of stick, and personally, and you know why, I've loved Toby King since day one, since he's come
But
here.
again, he's had a lot of flack. And he's never took a backward step.
No.
But what
He's got the right attitude.
from our old KR game
Right
for
attitude.
me was the amount of people that's like Gary Smith's goal kicking that day. My God, I've never known a win ladder in my life.
Anybody who'd have been at the game, I told them,
It was windy.
off that touchline in second half, where he missed Was it in the first half?
First half, he missed 3, didn't he?
Missed what? Yeah.
There was all touch
Missed one off.
Yeah, that was it. Sorry.
Then Coop missed 2 off touchline in second half.
Yeah. Coop missed 2 in second half. The only one he kicked was right under the sticks.
And he weren't kicking into Win Coop, to be fair. He was kicking from that stand. Win was coming through corner there.
Yeah, but the point being is Smith missed, I think, 3 kicks in that first half. And I said, people talk about Pat Richards, Andy Farrell and Botica. You've got to put that ball down and let one kick it, and then let next person kick it, and let next one, and I'm not convinced that they got it done. But it was a game.
Bill Ashes to kicked it.
But listen, you know, I've said it since day one, and we've got to be careful here. We don't rake up all cold, because we've been talking about this, haven't we, all season. Harry Smith was statistically, and in terms of numbers, the best kicker in the league in 2022.
Yeah.
You don't do that and become a bad kicker overnight.
With 45 tries.
But also
French.
Yeah.
French scored 31 tries on the wing last year.
He doesn't miss by much. When he misses, he misses by inches.
I've said this. Have a look at his wagon wheel and where he's kicking his goals from. If you're kicking them near the sticks, you can kick as many as you want. On Saturday, how did he kick off touchline?
Yeah,
6 out of 7.
That field one, wasn't it?
But the thing is, Jimmy, it needed fixing.
Yeah.
And he's done it.
And he's done it, or he's getting there and he's doing it. It's that knee-jerk reaction of get rid. Rubbish, no good, take it off.
Listen,
I hope we haven't signed Kieran to be a goal kicker. I hope we've signed him because he's a centre.
Because Keane was going back.
Yeah. That's why I hope we've signed him.
Yeah.
Because if we've signed him to solve the Harry's kicking problem, that's not the answer. And that's why I was so happy with Pete's comment that he said, we work on it, we try and improve, and then we trust them.
I don't get
remember
goal kickers.
Sean Wayne's comment about Josh Mantellato.
Yeah. Yes.
He said he's a great goal kicker. He'll have to kick his first 4 goals every week for back up for points he lets in because he can't tackle. So you have to kick 8 points because he's got to give 2 tries away. So it's counterproductive.
You pick your best team and pick the best goal kicker out of that
team, yeah.
And you say when you captain.
Yeah. Right, that wraps that up. We'll come back shortly just to preview the final on Saturday. Thank you. So Saturday is the big game, the one you go to all the games in February and March for, the long coach journeys to wherever, to be in this game at the end of the season. We're playing Catalans, definitely the best 3 teams of the league. Obviously, 1, 2 and 3 all finished on the same points. So I think it's fair that 2 of them have got to the final. I guess I'm going to ask you, where do you think this game is won and lost? Who's Wigan's key men? Who's Catalan's key men? Who are you a little bit worried about in this game? I think for me it's quite obvious that my worry in Catalans is that man out the back, Sam Tompkins. I always get the feeling he can win a game on his own, and I think we're going to have to really do a job on him to nullify his effect in this game.
I'm going to slightly disagree with that. I think Mitchell Pearce is her key.
Exactly what
I think his kicking game, Tyrone May is a big body that can offload a ball and whatever, but Mitchell Pearce is the one that penetrates with them kicks, puts them in right place, whatever.
I don't think he was great against St Helens, but they said it was injury out.
I don't think that any of them was great against it.
I think if I could pick one player out to take it the Catalans team, it would Mickey Mack with Teddy Dout.
I think Mickey defensively could cause us some damage.
I think we could kick Sam to death on Saturday.
Like in Catalan, just having moved one.
You have to be careful so that you don't write something here that's going to get picked out next week, but Sam is going to play off the back of a number of other things. You get him if he gets in the right places, if Mitchell gets time, or blah blah blah, but somebody else is going to have to do that for him. And let's be honest with you, we've got our own equal threat, slightly different. You know, he's the Sam of old in the pace and whatever. We're going to have to control Mickey so that he's going backward and he's being worked over. That's what we did. I talked about him looking up at that screen and looking a bit tired and a bit heavy-legged and whatever. And if we can take that fire out of his belly...
We talked about a grand final before 2010. And
he worked Kieran Cunningham over.
McIlaurin started over
Riddell, and he knocked Cunningham and James Graham all over the field for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Brad O'Neill might do that on Saturday night.
That's the thing. Brad O'Neill's a tough guy. I think we've got to be careful with our discipline, because they've got 2 or 3 players that can certainly drag us into doing something a bit silly.
But I think they've got a few who could do something silly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mickey could come flying out.
He absolutely could.
Navarrete's that kind of player as well.
Yeah.
But I just think if nobody gets sent off and there's no other that, the quicker the game, the better it is for us.
I'd try and keep this ball in play as much as possible.
Yes.
I agree with Johnny about Mickey Matt being the man to watch, because I think back to that when Saints played Catalan in the Grand Final a couple of years ago. The Saints played Catalan and they took Mickey Mack off for 12 minutes ago, and it was just going really. It was getting on top. Saints were tiring. They took him off, and from then they kind of like lost the way.
I'm sorry to another little.
I couldn't believe they didn't bring him back.
Another little bugbear of mine. We've got that interchange with Sam Powell, where O'Neill can then come back on and play 13 if he needs to be or whatever.
It gives us options.
And I remember saying 10, 11 weeks ago when he come back from his injury, Sam Powell's got a big part to play this year.
As soon as he come back, he's been in straight team, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And he's earned his place.
Yeah.
We're saying on Sunday, like O'Neill's.
So going back to Catalan,
he can play 13. He's big.
He is a 30. He's not a 9.
For a 9, he's big.
Yeah. But on reflection, you asked the question about Catalan. I said Mitchell Pearce. I'll bow down to the others that have picked Mickey, because he'll give them that defensive lift and get them going forward and whatever, that'll allow the Mitchell Pearce to
they'll look to him
do we think the dry conditions along Wigan? It's just going to be dry on Saturday.
Yeah, listen.
I think we've got more threat from distance than they do. I don't think they've got the pace that we have in French
size
field.
of Old Trafford with your French and your field.
You've got your tiny in goals as well, and that always knocks off people's kicking games, and obviously Pearce is expert at that, so he'll have to change his game slightly for that.
Yeah.
He'll have to be in them positions though. We need to, if we stop them kicking from in our 20, then he's
no chance anyway.
I mean, I'm preaching again about the same old thing. Our half-time conversation with a certain person after the whole situation or after the whole game was, we're boring, we don't throw it about, blah, blah, blah. And I remember saying, start of that second half, we completed something like 8-9 sets in a row and kicked them into corners. If we play on Saturday in the first 15-20 minutes and turn 5 balls over through knock-ons or going in touch or not completing whatever, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
If we complete and kick on 4 and 5 and put them into their corners and chase, like we have been doing, they're going to be in trouble. The amount of times I've seen us kick in the last 10 weeks, put teams in that corner and they can't get a forward back on the side until tackle 4 has been unbelievable. There was a set on Saturday, 20 minutes into the game, when we kicked into a corner, pinned them in, and there were 7 men in offside position. Third tackle, there was 5 men still in opposition.
There was one point, I don't know who it was, whether forward, it was Adley or King. He was in our line and
walking
going back with us.
Yeah.
He never got back on side at all.
Yeah. So, So I think that, not just because it's a final, and not just because of the conditions, even if it's nice, I want us to be completing.
We have to stick to the blueprint, don't we? Talk about blueprint, the platform. Jimmy called it before. Don't go change. It's worked. Stick to your process. Stick to what you've back your defence. Kick them into corners. Use what has worked on this 10-game streak. Don't go changing it. And stick to it.
What we don't want to do
trust
is be pushing balls and pushing offloads in the first 10 minutes, turning over twice and finding ourselves.
You said it before. Work hard on it in training. Trust it to work.
I just hope we're not talking after 80 minutes and all of that's gone away.
Again.
We had a great start on Saturday, but it was off the back of
We did.
Then we dropped the ball 3 times on first time.
and then we tried to throw them out and we dropped the ball on the first
No,
time.
I don't think they weren't all throwing it around with the athletes.
No,
You can't make them mistakes.
No, the
You can't make them mistakes.
best part of them mistakes was Tyler Dupree just dropped a ball.
Yeah,
he wasn't trying to offload.
Flicking over the top or anything.
Correct.
I think that was five or six drives in 3 sets.
Well, obviously, we can't afford to do that on Saturday.
No.
Or nor at first tackle.
No.
So it's daft. You can turn it over at fourth tackle.
It's the only reason
Well,
that game was close,
it's-
wasn't even within touching distance there.
Just one thing though, not to necessarily to that extent, as we're talking Mickey Mike, that's the reason I saw him play at weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he'll lift us. If we're in that spell where maybe we're 4 points down, 50 minutes into the game, we have to get off that line, we have to push, we have to create an error at some point.
He might even start.
I still nullify somebody on their team.
I think he'll start.
He might start.
He always does.
Can't play that middle.
A bit of it.
And after Dupree coming on off bench.
He's got to be. He'll nullify somebody, and it was actually working at Headingley before he got injured.
Yeah.
He'll nullify somebody, and he'll take one of their forwards, maybe even two, completely.
Shorrocks and Arthur did that.
What they did to Vaughan and Cassiano on that game.
Yeah.
Well, they just kept dropping him.
So what I'm saying about that is we know that we're a little bit light. Personally, I'd probably have December in front of Hill, but that leaves you with only
Pierce Paul. If Isa starts, Pierce Paul,
he's
you'd
got to play
imagine.
more minutes.
He'd have to play
With it being the last game of the season, are they worried about how much juice is in the tank? No, they're not. So he could probably play 70, 80 minutes, Pierce Paul. Smithies, instead of going off after 30 minutes, he could probably move to prop and go and give us another 20 minutes.
I think we have Pierce Paul and Smithies at prop.
No, not together.
If we had,
that would be my one concern. Is
not
having Hill. If we lost a prop for injury, we could be short.
I think
as a natural prop.
The thing is,
that's
though,
the only.
I
think that's why he played last week, because he knows we're on, and he obviously didn't know with Isa where Isa's up to. Whether I don't think he'll play.
I think he only played Isa last week because he wanted.
You think he'll?
I don't think he'll play this week.
Do you think he'll play December?
Yeah.
See, I think.
I think he was edging his bets with Isa last week.
We are relying on Pierce Paul solely playing through the middle. Then I think.
Yeah, I think he'll play as a. He can play as a 60 minute.
Listen, what I'll give this team credit for, Matty P credit for, is we've got 4 or 5 players that are interchangeable. Ellis can play 2 positions. Smithies can play 3 positions.
Isa's playing in the middle at times.
Do you know what I mean? No. Do we want them in the second favourite position all at once? No. We've got to have that steady 3 or 4 players at any one time. But the fact that you can bring Powell on, or even play Powell at 13, but bring Powell on and use O'Neill to run on. You can have Smithies playing up there. You can bring Isa in and move Pierce Paul up front.
I don't like moving second rows, me. I think I'm big on the winger, you said 70 second row, they need to stay.
I think it has
as rigid as you can.
Pierce Paul's move.
It has worked.
I know. For me, I think this Saturday I'd go with Isa there, and I'd stick him
just
there.
Kai through the middle.
And Pierce Paul plays through the middle.
It's weird. You obviously talked about like Smithies and Pierce Paul being used down the middle at the same time. They seem to couple that with Mago, and that Smithies and Pierce Paul pick up a little bit of his defensive work and get more effective meters.
As good as Mago's been this last 10-11 weeks, I hope he's on field for 10 minutes, 15 minutes first half, 10 to 15 minutes second half. He doesn't need offload. If he's offloading, we're either making a mistake or we're in trouble. Because he's having to push something. And the key bit is, if he can take ball in 6, 7, 8 times in that first 10, 15 minute spell, probably 6, 7, 10, he's done his job. Yeah. If he does it again in second half, then everything's going well. That's what we want.
He does give you an option if you are trying to chase a game.
It's very much. Somebody asked me at the beginning of the week, what do you think? I said, well, I usually spend the first 2-3 days of a week thinking of all the reasons why we won't win, and then spend the next 3-4 days thinking why we are going to win. If I'm being honest with you, it's not that I've not thought about losing. Yeah, there are certain things or whatever, but wherever you look, we've got, in my opinion, better players.
Answers.
Better answers. Yeah, answers is a right thing.
We just got to.
Yeah.
No.
Do nothing stupid.
Yeah. I think that's it. I always say, and I hate when I say it because I feel like I repeat myself, but if we're 0-0 at 20 minutes and this ball's been in play for 15, 16 of them, I feel like we get better as games go along.
I think
we're
fitter than most.
We're very fit.
That's
what I'm talking about, the legs.
That's a big change as well, like last few years, fitness. We look a lot fitter in forwards.
Wait until Tyler Dupree gets Wigan fit.
Yeah, once he's got
been
pre-season.
That's
what I'm surprised he didn't do today.
Now, I'm going to leave you with one question. Obviously, the key men that everyone are going to highlight would be Field, French, Harry Smith. Outside of them three, who do you think is going to be Wigan's key man? And I'll go first. I think Jake Wardle does something special in this game. Okay. I can see Jake Wardle. I've seen touches of class from him at centre. Yeah. I can see him having a real...
Who's he up against? Is that?
He'll be up against either Kieran or Cavallo.
Does he not play Cavallo on that side?
No, Cavallo's on their right side, so
he's more likely up against that fella. Yeah, he's dangerous ball in hand. I'm not convinced. Defensively, yeah. Listen, they've a pair of good wingers. The three quarters are good players.
I like the three quarters,
You know, it's the same old thing. If Tom Johnson's and Tom Davies are attacking the ball from attacking kicks 10-15 yards from our own line.
Marshall and Mr. Problems.
Yeah, they've got some
problems.
But if we're turning them round and playing them near their own line and asking them to bring that ball out to their own 20, Davies does that well, but we're better at doing that than what they are.
I don't think he's played many games against us for long.
He'll let it out again at Catalan.
Yeah. Because he hasn't moved mate to centre.
Right, you read my thought. I said Jay Wall. I think he's been immense this year. You know, he's a proper centre.
Johnny, who do you think?
I'm going to go Brad O'Neill.
Lewis?
I can't leave those three. I'll go Faz. I think he'll play. He'll step up and he'll do. I don't think he'll do anything special. But he'll have his 8, 9 or 10 out of 10 that he does every week, and you need that in big games.
Andrew?
I'm going to repeat Johnny, but just add something to it. Brad O'Neill and Sam Powell.
There's a pairing, yeah.
I don't know what they're going to rely on when Mickey goes off.
Morgan, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're going to try and do whatever they do. If O'Neill and then Powell can work the magic and in terms of run the legs off Mickey Mack, just keep the game pace and whatever.
If Morg is the option for 9 when Mickey goes off, the longer he's at 9, we've worked McLaurin well. Cam?
I think if he starts, I think it could be ISO at tiring the defence out with Mickey Mack. If you just have him running at Mickey Mack, relentless.
On that short ball, that drop off on the inside. Matty?
I reckon it's O'Neill or it's Morgan Smithies. For the same reason Cam just mentioned ISO there. I think he'll do the same thing too.
That's a great call on Smithies in the what somebody did was it last year that they said you only give 5 penalties away the whole of last year. This thug that we've got, he's been very similar this year. Been so disciplined. The amount of time he gets that ball and makes his 10 and then gets up and goes again.
I've never seen anyone want contact as much in all their life. He wants people hit him. He wants to hit him harder. He loves it.
Yeah,
very similar to
makes a lot of tackles and just relishes it.
It was weird. We said the other week that about 3 or 4 weeks ago we were looking at the stats and Smithy's made 40 odd tackles, and you have to look at that again.
Probably now.
Yeah, you have to look at that and then go. But you have to look at that and then go. That's more than anyone else, and we've just blown over it because that's average numbers from all.
They're not just tackles.
No, the first
man. The counting tackles are not. Not third man in putting your hands on their tackles.
So, it's getting a little bit nervous. I am, anyway. Especially now we've talked about it, I can feel myself getting more nervous sat here.
Embrace it.
Yeah.
That's why we follow sport, isn't it?
3,821 miles we've done this year.
To get
watching Wigan.
Say that again, sorry.
3,821 miles.
That was just
watching Wigan. Them's the numbers. It's a long way to go that, and it's all about Saturday.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
That's the joy of the Grand Final, isn't it? You've done it all for this.
I've never been a person that worried about what was going to happen in a final. You know, I've seen people say, "Oh, they'll beat the battles if they get there." You play this game to win. You play these games these types of days. Somebody said embrace it. Yeah, that's what they're there for.
That's why them players started playing when they were kids. Games like this.
Yeah, and I do think I know you asked us to pick outside of Harry and pick outside of Bevan, and I'm thinking one of the great things about them, they're playing with a smile on their face. They really are playing with a smile on their face. And I didn't touch on it in the regular season section. This last 2 years, I've enjoyed going watching Wigan. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have we had our ups and downs? Yes.
Look at
Yeah, well, that's sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
If you went and won every game every week, you get boring.
Well, look at the numbers of people who were going watching. Look at the away ends were selling out.
Yeah.
Back up, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's such a weird thing, this, but pre-season 2022, stood at that train station at Wigan after a couple of parts in Wigan and seen the numbers of people going to a pre-season friendly at Warrington. Ours up back of my neck were going up.
Yeah.
And I think the way Pete's connected, the way that he's got his players connected, and what's going on behind the scenes, and again, fair play to Mr. Lenigan and Radlinski, who goes unnoticed.
They have been fortunate with coming off the back of COVID, and obviously was struggling with that.
That was one of my biggest worries for the game, was how we reacted after COVID.
And I think we've been
we could have quite easily gone the other way.
It could have.
And having crowds of say
I think
6, 7.
that's as a game as much as a club intake.
No, I know. Yeah.
And I actually think the game's booming. One thing that I detest reading on, I've said this to you a lot, Nonton, is when people get off on, Saints only have 10,000 on such a body on like that. You don't want that for the game.
It just
you
feels
want
like
sell-out crowds.
Just three
everywhere you go,
yeah.
then you know the game's booming.
It's the referees,
It's
match review,
Friday at
attendance.
We had a bit of a go
It's just a cycle.
at Lee away, people doing nothing but complaining about the referee.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the referee, we've got to go and win the game. We won at Lee, and then two people are going, tickets are not selling for OKR, tickets are not selling for OKR. Like they did the year before when we played Leeds, it's got to be embarrassing against OKR, it was going to be embarrassing against Leeds. You know what, 10,000-11,000 Wiganers turned up, and outnumbered Leeds 3-1. We had double the people there last week, provided a great
It was going to be embarrassing last week.
It was going to be embarrassing. We need to somebody misses a kick and we want him out of the team or whatever. I think that positivity that Pete has put into the club, along with what the club itself is doing, and that trust and that belief and playing with that smile on your face and whatever. I was a big fan of Wayne, but we look like a team that wants to play. Where under Wayne, we probably look like a team that wanted to do a job.
When you listen and read what other people within the game say about Matty B, it tells you everything you need to know.
Yes,
There's nobody says, is this, is that. All they say is, I love listening to him talk, he talks sense, doesn't say it before, he doesn't cheat the game, doesn't do excuses. You know what I mean? He's an intelligent man.
Yeah.
I think I said last week, we've got amazing moments like that. Tompkins' try last week against St Helens, and Dom Young last year in the World Cup, Miski diving in the corner, things like that we should be promoting.
Well,
what a great product.
It is an interesting one, and I'm sorry to bring those fellas over the hill into it or whatever, but you've got them saying no, it's such a rubbish league and it's a rubbish league. But when they've won 4 in a row, anybody else says, it's a rubbish league. Oh, you're only saying that because we won it. It's a natural reaction to criticise it, whatever. The top line is, I've never, not said never, that's a long time, it's been a long time since I've watched as many British Super League games, because every week you couldn't predict who was going to be two.
It's a good product. All we do is we moan about referees, we moan about bans, and we moan about tendencies.
And what we have to do is understand that it's a bit like saying the Premier League now is the best league in the world as they talk about in football. It will be if you're spending 10 times more money than Dutch League, German League, whatever it be. And that's what it is. We cannot compete with that situation in the NRL in particular, but also rugby union.
It's a different game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
NRL and Super League are two different games.
It's going to be my final say on it, because I was thinking of saying it and thinking about this earlier on today. I hope Mr. Lenigan gets a real good send-off, because a bit like we talked about Sean Wayne being up there with Morney and being up there with Lowe as our best ever coach, because he had to win things in a completely different era with so many restrictions that they didn't have. Ian Lenigan could quite possibly be our best ever chairman. Not just for the results and whatever. Morris left us and we went downhill.
We were in the shit.
Ian Lenigan's pulled us out the crap, settled us down, won us championships, won us World Club challenges, won us Challenge Cups.
I think he's set
and he's set up a transition into this new era.
Having negotiated something that nearly killed the sport and nearly killed so many businesses.
I don't think there's any doubt about what you just said.
He could be the best chairman we've ever had.
He is.
So I hope
he deserves a win on Saturday.
Yeah.
More than any of us, I think.
Yeah.
Money's put in, town is put in, FA's put in. He deserves it.
And the flag is down.
Yeah, from his own fans, which has hurt him. We've spoken to him, and he said it's hurt him. Some of the things people have said.
Yeah.
Short arms, deep pockets, undeserved.
Well, he's put
Undeserved.
spent 8 million buying it to
Wigan
put
could have gone to the wall many.
He spent three years making sure this fella's the right man to take over. He didn't sell out 3 years ago when he was losing money.
No.
He's made sure this was the right man.
He said as much on Sunday. He said this is the most controlled and prepared for takeover he's ever seen. Usually when people take over a club, like when he took over, it was
in turmoil. Some form of like normally on the decline, not on the up, not on the up.
Now we'll ask one more question before we go. Harry Sunderland Award. Who do you think wins Harry Sunderland? My pick is Harry Smith.
Well, he should have had Lance Todd last year, shouldn't he?
Yes.
But they just decided to pick
Could
it
Chris
so
McQueen win this? No, I'm going to go Harry Smith to win Harry Sunderland Award. I think he's... There's not much more I can say about Harry Smith.
I think Harry Smith would be my favourite as well, but I think if he doesn't win it, Bevan might add it to his collection.
Come.
Harry Smith or Jay Wardle?
Andrew?
Can I back out and not give you an answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Reason being is I don't care. I don't care who scores first try. I just hope we win. That's
fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not bothered.
Benjamin Garcia can win it as long as we win the trophy.
That's just how I've always been.
Make a just difference.
So
go on, Lewis.
Yeah, I'll go Smith as well.
Bradley O'Neill, sponsored by Gary Bennett.
Probably the bloke I feel the most sorry for is Toby King. Having to leave Wigan. I hope he goes for the ring and he wins the Harry Sunderland.
That'd be brilliant.
But how would you feel? He absolutely loves the place, and he's got to go back to that.
How many years has he got to do the?
I think he got one more year left.
Only one.
He'll be
It'll
out
feel
on
like 10.
I believe he's out on licence after 6 months.
Do you reckon we'll ever sign him back?
I did say we were going to the last word about Yelleringham, but it would be depressing to work in Warrington. So yeah, listen, we've got to get the job done, and you know, I'm so happy that everybody's enthused about it and seeing them queues on Sunday. I know there's been a lot of problems with the tickets
people
and
criticised.
Yeah, but listen, there's been a lot of trouble with the ticket. We understand that, you know, and it's not been necessarily done the right way, but the very fact that tens of thousands of Wiganers are going on Saturday, let's make it a good event, and let's just win. Let's just give a good account
We
to
are the
ourselves.
18th man, and it's up to us to do our bit.
They're not rubbing rags, these men.
No,
We've got to be tough. We've got to stand up to them. We've got to be patient. We've got to be as mistake free as we can. Kick to corners, chase, and then we've got 4 or 5 bits more magic than what they've got.
Yeah.
Right. That wraps it up, guys. Thank you for joining us, Jimmy, Johnny, Andrew and Cam. Thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully we're talking next week after a positive result. So good luck to Wigan and see you next week. Hi, I'm Tom.
I'm Matty.
And I'm Lewis.
This is the Wigan Way, Wigan's favourite rugby league podcast.